Now, I mean, he's not wrong. It was a far better show, but it wasn't a good show.
No.
Which should tell you how bad the Nitro show was.
Yes, Raw did not win this ratings battle. Nitro lost it.
It was wretched. Let's get going. I don't want to waste any time. I don't want to waste any more of my life on this Nitro show than I absolutely need to. This fucking show. How am I going to last?
That's a great question.
You got
How?
You have 98 more weeks.
I can't do it.
By the way, is my volume up?
Yeah?
Okay.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? You need a list or...
Actually, I don't know what you think is wrong with you. I know what Brian and I think.
I'm far too handsome, number one.
Yeah, yours is on. What's your problem?
Okay, I just...
Maybe your headphones are turned down.
Maybe. Well, Mark was yelling in this thing, on Sunday. I thought maybe...
Wait, you think he broke it? I assure you he did not break the
Possible.
microphone.
So anyway, Monday Nitro number 190, May 3rd, 1999, a dark day in the annals of wrestling history because this Nitro was on. So Flair's in a limo. Ric Flair's in a limo. He's gotten himself out of the hospital. He's in the limo with Arn Anderson, who he calls Double A, and Asia, who he calls Double D. And there's a van next to them with all of Flair's buddies in the hospital.
I don't think that's generous enough, by the way.
I'm not sure, actually. I was going to say that doesn't sound right, but then I thought about her, and that actually may be right. Yeah.
They look smaller next to her biceps and shoulders. So,
yeah.
So...
Their biceps are like those double H's.
Yes. So this depiction of mentally ill people has to be like terribly offensive, right?
I would imagine. Yeah.
Okay.
It has to be. Like, you have to ask that question.
Just checking.
This was so...
Well, I'm not
like,
offended.
Can you imagine in 2018...
No.
the reaction if WWE did this on a show?
Yeah.
Like, I can't even fathom it. The way that Twitter is nowadays and social media, like, that'd be the end of WWE. WWE wouldn't last as long as WCW lasted if they pulled shit like this today.
It really depends on how much money they were making.
No, this is just it was ferocious. You hear me?
Brian made up a word.
I did.
Well, it reminds him of her, which is the worst possible thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ferocious. They spent a long-ass time recapping last week's bizarre show. So they're in Charlotte. Ricky Rockman's in the crowd. He says Ric Flair is psychopathic, but he's coming to the building. He's bringing the nuts with him.
The nuts, you say?
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. This was so much more offensive than last week. Like, this is another one of those things where everybody remembers last week. The week that Ric Flair was put in the asylum.
Yes.
They don't forget the next week. Or they don't remember the next week. Probably because they all quit last week.
Yes.
But, like, if you watched last week and you kept watching, this was way worse than Ric Flair getting locked up. Way worse. And did you notice Scott Hall driving the bus?
I did not.
No one else did either.
Yeah, I did. Did they actually show his face?
I just know he was driving the bus.
Yeah, I think they only showed his hair.
Yeah.
I can assume. So Ricky asked the fans if Flair was crazy. He introduced the Nitro Girls. They danced for a while. Bobby Heenan's there. He claimed he'd been there last week, disguised as Mike Tenay. They discussed the rumors that Flair was headed to the building, because, again, this is now Lucha Underground. The announcers don't know what's going on. They re-aired the Gorgeous George training video from last week.
Now, before that, let's just go back to Ricky Rackman here. I don't want to waste too much time on the show, but I concluded this right here is... I mean, we've talked about a lot of dumb things they've done.
Mm-hmm.
This was the legitimate, real-life beginning of the fucking end. Because this was the most uncool I have ever seen WCW. Even when they did stupid shit here and stupid shit there, it was like, well, Goldberg's still cool. Or, people hate WCW, but the NWO is cool. There wasn't one fucking thing on this show that was even remotely cool. Am I wrong?
Well, you're not, but I'm wondering what it was about this segment that tipped you off.
It was
Ricky
just...
Rackman's been around for months.
The fucking Flair, and, like, he jumped the shark on this show. Like, I'm a big fan of Crazy Flair. He was so uncool on this show.
He was.
All of these fake people out of the asylum. It's just so stupid. And every fucking thing on this show just sucked. So painfully uncool.
They re-aired the Gorgeous
Ricky
George
Rackman.
video.
Christ.
They plugged NitroGirls.com, which is dead now, if you're wondering.
Thanks, man.
Was it ever alive?
Well, I wasn't looking. I don't think I had web access in 1998, to be honest, or 99.
Now, as a fair man,
I would have barely, but anyway.
That Gorgeous George training video was better than last week. It was a little more. We saw a little more of George, but just a little. So that was the only thing. Well, there was one other thing.
In a very literal sense, Brian, it's a tease.
That we'll all agree on the one other thing on this show that was cool.
We'll get to it.
But it was that in this.
They spent like 10 minutes recapping Ric Flair taking power and going crazy. This just went on forever.
Dude, that was fucking better than what was next. Some NASCAR fucking geek out there talking about fucking race cars for 10 fucking minutes at the beginning of the fucking show.
And Ricky Rackman's there.
Jesus. We were 10 minutes of this fucking show and they're talking to some NASCAR geek.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know NASCAR is really popular, right?
It is, but they were in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Would you like to look at the ratings pattern for this show, Craig, and tell me how fucking popular NASCAR is? This ain't NASCAR, it's pro wrestling.
I'm just telling you it's popular.
Well, the funny thing is, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where it's about as popular as it is anywhere else, and he wasn't their favorite driver, so they booed him.
Do you know, Craig, what else was popular?
Tell me, Brian.
Well, there was this band called Kiss.
It's still popular.
And do you know how goddamn not popular they were when they were in fucking Nitro in 1999? One of the lowest rated quarters in the history of WCW, that fucking concert. Why am I watching a NASCAR guy on a wrestling show?
Well, you're not going to have to see Kiss when, because they'll probably take it off.
Thank God. Couldn't they do a concert every week so the show would be an hour shorter on the network?
That's coming.
So I'm assuming the opener was the one good thing on the show.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it was all right. Actually, it was all right.
Scott and Steve Armstrong versus Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman. The bell to start the opening match rang 15 minutes and 30 seconds into the show, not counting commercials.
No. At least we had a match in the first hour.
Had a match.
I mean, I'm struggling for something nice to say.
We had a fun match. Scott and Steve out there bragging about their win over Raven in a handicap match last week. They had a fun little 3-minute tag match. And then Kidman pitches Ray over his head. Ray flies through the air, hits a Frankensteiner on the one guy, and pins him.
Well, I'll give my negative now. I thought that this was a fun match, and they gave them like 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're right.
You've got Ray and Kidman. The Armstrong brothers looked really good last week in a handicap match with Raven. I mean, you'd think, hey, they could have a hell of a match with Ray and Kidman. Well, you guys go out there for 2 minutes. We gotta save some time for Hack later on. That fucking hardcore match.
Yeah, that needed more time.
So Benoit,
we gotta save some money for Bagwell and Shat, who I think went 30 minutes. Am I wrong about that?
So Benoit and Malenko attack Ray and Kidman. Raven and Saturn chase them off. Ray and Kidman pick a fight with Raven and Saturn. Raven and Saturn beat their ass. The Horsemen come back and attack everyone. As I wrote here, this went on for a while, which is the theme of the show. Things have been on for a while.
So irritated.
By the way, Malenko gave a chair shot that rivaled our friend Lance Storm's.
That's
Hey,
fine.
great. After everything else in the show?
At least they didn't kill Rey Mysterio for the third straight time this week.
True.
Yeah.
That's a positive.
So they kept airing hype videos for guys, which is fine. It's a cool idea, but they were all just exactly the same. Here's a picture of the guy. Here's his name flashing back and forth. They changed the music. There's nothing good about these. And again, they're owned by Turner Television. Well, Cat versus Buff Bagwell.
This was a painfully massive waste of my time. Shat comes out there and he just rambles on the mic forever. Hey, fat boy, you can't even get over the guardrail. Hey, you're so ugly. On and on and on and on. Bagwell comes out. They have a house show opener on national television.
That's too much credit.
There's
Yeah,
a
I
bunch
would've
of
left this house
fucking
show.
holds. They're laying on the mat.
Did you mention the stalling?
They stall. Listen, as a fair man, when Ernest Miller debuted, he was way better than I remembered him being.
Sure.
He has only gone downhill since.
That's true.
He's worse every fucking week.
And Buff's out there. Been a babyface now for about a month. There's half-assing it, and then there's just not being there. Any warm body could have been in this ring with a cat and given more of an effort.
Why would you have given more of an effort for this fucking match is my question.
You could have tried professional pride.
Dude.
I know how weird that sounds coming from me.
Yes, there's no professional pride in a match with Ernest fucking Miller.
There's not a lot of professional pride on this whole show.
So there's a lot of cheating, a lot of interference. Buff makes his comeback. Sonny kicks the cat. Buff hits the blockbuster for the win.
Horrible. You hear me? Horrible.
And why wasn't Bagwell disqualified for Ono attacking the
Who
Shaft?
gives a shit?
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Not Buff's fault. Had an ad for their little wrestling buddies that would make noise when you slammed them and stuff. I can't believe that "Get off my nose" didn't turn into Kevin Nash's catchphrase.
Get off my nose.
That's what his doll says.
Wow.
Get
I
off
may
my
need to
nose.
get a -5 stars doll. I wonder how hard that would be.
So it shouts and you squeeze it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can be
And
done.
all your voice,
Sure. Yeah,
all your drops.
you can get Frozen, Brian, the movie. There's little snowmen where you could speak to them and they would repeat back what you say with their little animated snowman
Sure.
voice. So I had one that when you talk to it, it would say, "I'll kill you in your sleep."
A Frozen one?
You had one?
Yeah.
How old are you?
My wife got it.
I see.
Yeah. So point is, you can get this and get it to shout -5 stars at it.
Okay.
You can see you're
I don't really want to get a doll.
thrilled with this. Well, you
Why?
can sell it.
I'm trying to think of anything that's mildly entertaining during this wretched fucking review.
Flair and his crew arrived.
Okay, now before Vinny recaps this, in The Observer, Dave said this was one of the best segments of the year.
No. No.
Yeah,
What
you want me to
year?
go back and get the exact phrasing?
No, but
Let's go over what the hell happened here.
Please.
Flair,
Are you
Asia,
certain?
Arn, Little Nate, J.J. Dillon, all come out to talk to Gene. Flair's jumped the shark.
See, I didn't like I have not liked Crazy Flair in a while, and this went beyond shark jumping into vomit inducing.
It was horrible.
He's something about calling out the entire roster. I think everything he says, I had to write down what I think he says because I'm not totally sure. I think he called out the entire roster. I think he challenged DDP to a title match.
Yes.
I think he threatened to go to Oregon and fuck Roddy Piper's wife.
He did.
Oh, he definitely said that one.
Yeah. And he threatened to get naked. They go to commercial. In a promo.
Yeah. And they come back for more of the promo.
Yeah.
So out comes Randy Savage and his crew. Flair says Savage is fired, calls for security to evict them, but leave George behind.
Makes sense.
So Savage and his women kill all the security dudes, but then more dudes come, and Savage and Medusa and Miss Madness are dragged away. Gorgeous George is still in the ring.
Okay, let's talk more about George.
Please.
So she comes out of this dressing room following her own boobs. I mean,
Yes.
they're coming out separately.
That's fair.
She's
They're
wearing...
actually separate from each other as well.
She is wearing the smallest top that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
Like, it's astounding how small it is.
It's like a training bra.
Yes. And I'm like, how the hell is she going to stay in this thing? So,
Foreshadowing.
Savage and Medusa start beating up cops. Flair goes to molest George
Fair.
to the point where they're asking him, get your hands off of her, because he can't help himself.
Oh, that's crazy.
Her areolas are everywhere. Savage finally gets taken away. What's going on over there? Is that me? Is that my own voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob's playing
Bro, I got
podcast.
bored and started listening to a different show.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a picture of Gorgeous
What's
George.
happening over there?
I was trying to find a picture of Gorgeous George, and apparently the show from that I was listening to on my ride into work this morning was still on.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find some pictures, all right.
Sorry about that.
Probably this one here. So anyway, yeah. Boobs
So-
falling out.
Yeah, there's more. There's more. Oh, Charles Robinson says a bimbo can't chew gum and walk at the same time, so George slaps him, he goes down. Asia grabs George, chokes her to the mat.
Her boobs fall out.
George.
Literally, they fell out of her top.
Yeah.
And they had to have some guy come down with a coat to help her.
Gene
Get
took
to the
off
back.
his coat to cover her.
Yes.
Flair cuts a promo vowing to beat Paige tonight, and then he'll beat Nash at the pay-per-view. Sting comes out.
Because
What's
Flair,
happening?
Because Flair, in the middle of this fucking thing, starts yelling at Sting now.
He did?
Yeah, he's yelled at everybody.
The entire roster, Vince.
Sting comes out. They have a brawl.
Goldberg
comes out.
Can you imagine? I was angry to see Sting and Goldberg on the show just because I
Yeah.
wanted the segment. This thing started with the limo arriving a segment ago. We're still going. Goldberg hits Flair. Goldberg and Sting start brawling. Security breaks them up. One of the highlights of the show, I believe Bill Goldberg attempted to murder a human being by grabbing a security guard and basically, like, just with his hands alone, suplexing him out of the ring.
Yep.
They kept fighting. More security showed up.
Hey, Goldberg could throw them hands.
Time went by.
That was a rare positive on this show. He
As
was
I-
absolutely killing Sting.
As I wrote here, finally this thing just faded away.
Yeah, how did Flair get his power back? How did Randy Savage get fired again after he was rehired? What's going on here?
No one knows.
Yeah, this sucks.
You wrote the book. How did it happen?
No one knows.
I see.
Flair meets with Stevie Ray. Says, I will give you $100,000 to take out Kevin Nash. Stevie Ray is the leader of NWO Black and White.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash is one of the big names in NWO Wolfpack. They're supposed to be on the same side.
Nah, kind of.
But Stevie says...
I'm not sure, actually, no.
Are the B-teamers... The Wolfpack is in charge of the B-team. That's why they're the B-team.
Right.
I don't know if we called them the B team.
I've heard them called the B-team by the announcers.
No, I don't know what the hell's going on.
They're sharing the same name.
Who cares? I don't know who's what on this show.
Stevie accepts the money.
Baffled.
I hope Kevin Nash isn't watching.
Yeah, Stevie's all about breaking necks and cashing checks, he said.
Fuck Bam Bam Bigelow and Hack.
Yeah. Horrible.
Dude. This fucking match.
It's not that it was really just bad. It was long and bad.
It was so goddamn long. And they didn't do anything cool.
You know what this reminded me of, Vinny? It's a battle royal you shot in.
That was a better match than this.
It was like in the back, there was a piece of paper, and it said Bam Bam Bigelow versus Hack. 18 minutes. Do whatever the fuck you want. And this is what we got.
Maybe.
But no one won, unlike in your battle royal.
There were no winners here.
There was
Nobody
contest.
won.
A no contest in a hardcore match.
Everyone who watched it lost. Nobody won. They just hit each other with shit over and over and over again for 18 minutes. Went through a break. Comes back. The announcers don't care about the violence. All they're doing is making jokes about how many tables they have under the ring. Brian Knobbs comes out. Hits Bam Bam with a trash can. Hits Hack a little bit. He leaves. It's just over. They just go to break. There's no finish. An all-time horrible segment.
Yeah. I got nothing to add.
This was hot garbage.
It absolutely, absolutely sucked.
Stevie Ray met with the B-teamers. Now positive, subtle, funny joke. He tells them that Flair gave him $50,000 to take out Nash.
Yes.
He'll split it with them if they help.
Yeah.
Carney.
And you know what's even better? Fucking Horace goes, we do it for free. That's why he's on the B team.
He is.
Someone smarten this shithead up.
So one of Flair's crazy friends is in the bathroom.
He goes to tell Kevin Nash what happened.
Roddy Piper highlight video. The crazy guy did in fact stooge out Stevie Ray to Nash. Told him what was going on.
Why are they letting these maniacs run backstage?
Well, eventually they get rounded up and arrested, if I recall correctly.
They're Flair's buddies and Flair's the president.
For 2.5 hours.
He's the president, dude. Of the world, he said.
That's true.
This actually is addressed by the end of the show.
Okay.
That'll take a while. Conan versus Horace.
This also sucked.
Conan starts out
This fucking show.
by saying,
Craig, I demand you curse.
if Horace brings his geek into the ring one more time, all of his B-team geeks,
It's not in me.
I have spoken to a buddy, and he's ready, and it's on. So Conan says he's got backup
Yeah.
if the B team beats him up. We all got
Yeah.
that? Is that all? We have it? We're clear? Okay.
So they start the match, and they start to brawl, and it's Conan, so he gets blown up in 30 seconds.
You know what? Conan started this match a house of fire.
He did.
He's running. He's fucking jumping. He's sprinting.
He's throwing punches.
I'm like, this is not conducive to a long Conan match. Clearly, this is going 30 seconds. Some dudes are going to run in.
Oh, you were wrong.
He fucking runs and jumps and sprints, gets blown up, and they go like another 12 minutes.
Horace hit 7,000 moves in a row. None of them were any good.
Conan just lays there.
There is a point deep into this match, long beyond the point anything interesting had happened, where Horace goes to a camel clutch. And all they can do is talk about how much it sucks compared to Scott Steiner's camel clutch. And there's a zoom in on Conan's face. I'm not sure he's awake. And suddenly I just started laughing. I was driven mad. Stark raving mad.
Should have been in the back.
I guess so.
I sure wish I'd got to that point. I was getting more and more furious with each passing second on this show.
Well, speaking of fury, eventually Conan makes his comeback and he hooks the Tequila Sunrise and the NWO attacks for the DQ.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said earlier when I said I couldn't believe anyone ever watched this show ever again?
Yeah.
How did anyone watch this show ever again?
I don't know.
Who would subject themselves to this?
You know what I noticed when they had this disqualification finish? The crowd did not boo. The crowd did not cheer. The crowd was absolutely dead.
They were asleep too.
Now listen, do you remember that Royal Rumble where Roman Reigns won and like everybody was furious, and they claimed they were going to cancel the WWE Network because they were so angry.
I thought like 3 of those, but yes.
Well, anyway, the next day, the WWE Network hit a new milestone for subscribers.
Yes.
Because
Shocking.
when you're very, very happy with something or you're very, very angry about something, you're usually going to stick around because you have some passion.
Yes.
When the fans don't give a shit about anything, that is the beginning of the end. This did not sell out. They had to paper this show like crazy with free tickets. They sold like 5,000 tickets in a 13,000-seat building.
Yikes.
Can you imagine?
With Ric Flair and Charlotte.
Can you imagine what they're going to do the next time they come to Charlotte after the show?
So the B-teamers are beating up Conan when who should make the save but the founder of the NWO, Kevin Nash.
Yes. I told you the B team and the red and black are like feuding. They're on 2 separate pages.
Craig, does that make sense to you?
That's not the way I see it.
No, it is. They've been having problems.
Thank you for letting me have
Weren't
my opinion.
there like 2 months where Hogan pulled all the B-teamers aside and told them they were in charge?
Yeah, and he was fucking with all of them.
Well, I know,
they're the
but
minions.
they still listen.
Because they're the geeks. But now they're figuring it out.
See.
They are the minions of the NWO. They just...
How dare you insult the Minions like that?
I'm sorry.
Get out of here, you guys.
Minions had their own movie.
That's
This
true.
is stupid. By the way, that was Conan's big plan. Kevin Nash, who looked like he didn't even know he was there. And took an hour to get out there when the guy was being gang
He's
beaten.
got bad knees, Brian.
This fucking sucks.
So they cleaned house and they tried to clothesline Bryan Adams out of the ring, and it took like 3 guys all working in concert to pull this off. And Nash bumps fists with Conan and leaves.
This is where I took my second nap in the show.
I so wish I'd had time to take a nap.
I didn't have time. I just did. This thing cures insomnia.
I finished the show and jumped in the car and drove out here. Flair's buddies from the hospital were now in the production truck. Rick and David Flair had a reunion.
I did like this.
I did too, actually.
This was funny.
So Rick, he's emotional. He says he understands what David's been going through. He's just happy they're on the same page again. So he's going to make David's dream come true. He's going to get to wrestle on Nitro tonight.
David is so excited.
Well, by David's standards. And he says, listen, Charles Robinson's going to be the ref. This will be an easy win. And David's excited.
Tori is disgusted.
Something's up.
She
Yes.
knows this is bullshit.
Yes.
And by the way, Flair, as he's making this announcement, says, I'm going to do you a favor tonight. What you did to me, David, I've determined was in my own best interests. Now, at the time, they didn't explain what he was talking about. I was like, are you talking about the time where he cost you the World Heavyweight title and fucked you in the main event of that pay-per-view? Turns out they were talking about how he had his dad committed.
Right.
But anyway, I was like, what's going on here? But then it was explained.
So David leaves, and Tori leaves, and as soon as they're off screen, Flair turns to Arn and says, book him against Meng.
In the happiest,
Yes.
he's
Arn-
overjoyed.
Arn starts to protest. Meng will hurt David. And Flair says, oh yeah, he will. He'll kill him. That's a quote. Oh yeah, he will. He'll kill him. He's can't... Giddy. Ric Flair is giddy to watch Meng murder David Flair.
I was too.
What an absolute idiot his son was, by the way.
Yeah.
You couldn't see this coming with your dad being with your dad being Ric Flair. It was awesome.
Piper arrives in a limo.
Bobby Heenan says, another one escaped.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
not wrong.
Roddy gets out of this limo. How come the first time we ever see Roddy, he's like lurching for a second, and then he starts walking? You ever
Because
notice
he
that?
escaped.
You ever notice that?
Yes.
Like the moment he comes through the curtain the first time, the moment he gets out of a limo the first time, the first moment we always see him, he lurches onto the screen. Then he starts walking. And he's walking backstage. And he's
for
muttering,
a while. It's a big building.
And he's muttering.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how Flair made comments about my family.
You know who talks to themselves? Crazy people.
When Roddy Piper says Flair made comments about my family, it never ends well.
That's true.
So he finds Flair, beats the hell out of him, slaps a cop who tried to break it up.
Oh, man. Did he slap the shit out of this guy?
Eventually, he leaves, and Ric Flair, who is fighting for the world title in like 20 minutes, he's the main eventer, the big star. He is left on the floor as all the insane people try to tend to him. And spoiler alert, everyone, these weren't really insane people. They were bad actors. And you watch this crew of goofs try to feign sympathy for Ric Flair. All I can think is, what am I watching? This is among the worst television shows of all time.
No shit.
This is terrible.
I figured that out an hour ago.
Flair meets with Scott Steiner and says, I need you to take out Nash. Scott says, don't worry about it. I have my own agenda with Nash. He does?
Yeah.
So
Just go with it.
does the Wolfpack... What happened? Who's on? I need a chart.
I've explained to
I need
you.
a scorecard. Who is in what group? Who are friends and who are enemies?
Everyone's just out for themselves. I don't have any idea. I don't know why everyone's mad at each other.
Any idea? God, this.
Luger and Liz,
At least those are short, but
they're going to do an interview via satellite. A press conference.
a press in the middle of Nitro.
Yes.
The total package Lex Luger and Miss Elizabeth say it's time for a press conference.
Yeah.
But not on site.
No, they're somewhere else.
Who the hell knows where?
Elsewhere.
Yeah, they're in Atlanta.
And they begin to speak, and there are technical difficulties. Somehow, via the microphone, Lex is able to tell the signal is not getting through to the TV set at home.
Sure.
Yeah. The video was bad, but the audio was good.
Like, this went 30 seconds tops.
It was so
It was such a horrible 30 seconds.
It was dumb.
But they don't even do a believable satellite going down.
No.
It's like they put snow on the screen and someone goes and it just goes away.
That's what happened.
Like, this is fake. It's the best you could do. I didn't care. I'm over the show.
So Steiner's walking around backstage. He's looking for Kevin Nash.
He's looking for Nash.
He's looking for Kevin Nash. Now, Scott Steiner, who is evil, bumps into Rey Mysterio, who is heroic, and says, where's Nash? And Rey Mysterio just says, he's in there, thumbing to the room he has just left. Steiner walks in. There's no Nash, but there is Marcus Bagwell in Scott Steiner's world. Good enough. And he destroys him and leaves him laying.
Ray is a liar.
Destroys this guy. He takes a table and he fucking throws it on top of Bagwell. He just lays waste to this guy. And then he screams, Slammery boy, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was like, you just did kick his ass.
So
why am I buying this show?
So Ray... So did Ray screw Bagwell? Was he ratting out where Nash was and Nash was smart enough to leave?
Or was he terrified and he's in there, boss, get him.
Or that's another one. Ray is Dakota Kai.
Or maybe there were two rooms.
Excuse me?
And Scott Steiner went into the wrong one.
I don't know.
Maybe Nash was in the ladies' dressing room.
Maybe.
That's
Yes,
possible. It was a little Filipino girl in there? Oh, Korean. That's coming.
Meng versus David Flair.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
This was fun.
This was Meng versus David Flair.
It really was.
Meng beat the shit out of David Flair. He chopped the holy living hell out of this guy. You know what's funny about David? When he would
His offense?
when he would
No, actually,
occasionally
much funnier.
he would occasionally fire up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Meng is constantly doing his hussa. He's making his noises. And so he's not calling spots because he's just grunting.
Yeah.
What's there to call?
Maybe David speaks Tongan.
I'll tell you what's there to call. What's to call is fire up, kid.
Okay.
He never says that.
No.
He just beats on David, and every now and then he stands still and he just looks at the guy like,
What you gonna do?
here's your opening, motherfucker. What are you going to do? David does nothing. Eventually, David figures out when he's not hitting me,
I hit him.
I'm supposed to hit him. So he hits him.
Uh-huh.
His offense is halfway decent.
Yes.
It's not good,
No.
but it's so much better than his selling.
Yes.
And do you know how weird it is? Because how do you not sell getting your ass kicked for real?
By Meng.
Meng is beating the holy shit out of you. How can you not sell? You don't even have to sell.
Just get your ass kicked.
Have the guy chop you. It fucking hurts. Like, say ow, whatever.
My chest.
This fucking guy can't sell a beating from Meng.
There was one point where all Meng did, they're standing just outside the corner, and Meng shoves him back into the turnbuckle. And had I had time, I would have gifted this because David sold this. He hits the turnbuckle. He
He wiggles like a fish.
sort of. He turns this way. He jumps straight up. His arms go up. His face is blank. All right, his face is blank. So I'm going to reverse the direction so the camera can see me. But he goes into the turnbuckle and just goes. did. Dude, he's like a Muppet. He's a puppet. He was a puppet. Someone's got him on the strings, and they turn him like this, and there's no strings in his mouth or eyes, so it's blank. And they lift the strings. His arms go up, and then they just cut the strings.
That is exactly what happened.
I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. Now
I laughed when Meng he's beating him all over the ring, and he's giving him these fucking chops in the corner. He's just chopping the absolute shit out of David. And then Meng turns, and he's facing the hard camera, and he just is like, he's got the biggest fucking grin on his face. Like, man, I'm chopping this guy.
My favorite
over
thing,
and over again.
David's offense consisted of a kick to the belly, and then in his infinite wisdom, he decided to chop Meng.
well, he's Ric Flair's kid.
Understood.
That's what he can do.
But if the one guy throws a harder chop than you and you're going to chop him, that's a bad plan.
Hey, listen.
That's where he goes.
All I know is in a few weeks, we're going to get among the greatest squash matches in the history of the world. Actually, I don't think it's a few weeks. I think David has a title, or Benoit has a title, and David actually wins a title from him or something.
Yeah, I think like a year away.
But there's a match where Benoit gets in the ring with David. Mm-hmm. And if you liked these chops, he gives him the hardest chops in the history of professional wrestling. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Because he gives David one chop that is so thunderous that, like, it's a long shot, and you could see, like, the crowd going all the way up. There's actually a crowd at Nitro, which was why I figured it must be fairly soon. Like, you could see the crowd go all the way up. He chops this guy, and there's, like, everybody, grown men, they just go, oh my God, and they cover their head like this. All through the crowd, you can hear this. It is the most incredible chop in the history of wrestling.
So
This was good.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed it.
Meng pins him with a Tongan death grip, and he leaves, and Ric Flair comes out and hits on Tori. Now
He says, you'll never be first, but you can be last. He starts humping in her direction. Hopefully the camera didn't catch that there as I recreated it.
Now
And he screams at David to send him away again.
Now listen, I enjoyed watching Meng beat up David Flair, but it was still a very long, very bad show. And when that thing ended, and I realized there's still a half hour to go.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And what a half hour.
Had a DDP hype video, had the same Gorgeous George workout video, had a DDP promo. How does he get a new body every week?
Yeah, the same body as last week.
It's amazing.
It's just more tan this week.
I guess
It was
so.
very, very over tan.
So he brags about going from manager to announcer to rest of the world champion. Starts to talk about Ric Flair and how much Flair wants to be like him.
I'm the quickest two-time champion of all time.
That's what he said.
Is that a positive?
Means you lost, geek.
You lost really quickly after you won it.
Yeah. Curt Hennig and Booker T, for like 2 minutes, had a very good professional wrestling match, and then Stevie Ray came in and attacked for the DQ. Booker wasn't even in trouble.
And then Rick Steiner runs in, and it was exactly like that other match. When Rick Steiner ran in, some of the fans were doing the barking, but nobody gave a fuck about this fuck finish.
They were confused.
No, it was just deadly silence. There was no booing. There was no cheering. They just didn't care. That's the worst, when you don't care.
So at this point, Craig,
Yes.
the police officers
Finally.
determined, hey, these people from the mental hospital are supposed to be in the mental hospital.
2.5 hours later.
Let's go. Well, I guess is when they arrived, yeah. Let's go get them.
Whoop-de-doo.
DDP versus Ric Flair. By the way, remember? Oh, yeah, there's a match in between. Anyway, this match began. It's 15 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Flair's hometown.
Can you... We'll just get to that point. Can you imagine the company-wide failure and incompetence, malfeasance, I will say, to do a Ric Flair World Heavyweight Championship match in Charlotte, North Carolina, and nobody cares?
It's amazing.
This is not on Page or Flair exclusively.
Well, think about this. Do you know how hard it is to have a bad Ric Flair match?
There's a short list.
Do you know how hard it is to have a bad DDP match?
It's true.
Not many.
It was Flair versus DDP in the Carolinas, in the main event, for the world title. Flair facing a guy that, quite frankly, at this time was not considered like a champion. So, like, you could have changed the title here.
Sure.
It's not like he was facing Goldberg.
No.
He was facing DDP, who's already lost a title once in the last month. Mm-hmm. He lost a title on TV last week.
Yeah, it was last week.
Nobody gave a shit.
That's part of the problem because there's more to it than this, but they figured even if Flair does win the title, he'll probably just lose it again by the end of this show or next week at the latest because this title just changes hands all the time now. So they had a match. It was much longer than it needed to be. Flair actually hit a top rope back sandal.
That's true.
Very few times he's actually hit a top rope move. So Savage and George come jiggling out. Flair hooks a figure four. George gets in the ring, grabs her hair. Flair reaches up, just pulls her top down.
That's true. That happened.
Just does. Charles chases George out of the ring. Paige hits Flair with a gimmick. A second ref runs out to count the 10.
Scott Dickinson.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's Scott Dickinson. Maybe they're kicking this storyline off again.
Oh, like he did with Saturn?
Yeah.
Maybe. All I know is
Vinny is over it.
I deserve some kind of award for making it all the way through the show.
2 weeks ago, if I would
want
have
a
said...
trophy. I want a trophy like Braun Strowman. Vinny made this episode of Nitro all the way through.
We're going to get you one like the women one for the Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
It looked like a uterus.
Oh, right.
2 weeks ago, Vinny, if I would have mentioned Scott Dickinson, you had a meltdown. But you're so over it now that you don't even care.
I'm just happy the show is over.
The show was not fun.
No.
The show is historically awful. Like, there's more to come. Russo hasn't even shown up yet.
Yeah.
Are you ready for your finishes, Vinny?
Hey, the sooner we get started, the sooner we can end and put this show out of my life forever.
That's right. Well, you can't put Nitro out of your life forever.
Well, this particular episode.
Here we go.
The finishes on this show were clean pin, no finish in a hardcore match, DQ an hour into a Conan match, clean pin, DQ in 2 minutes, pin after interference and a weapon shot.
Sweet.
So let's begin. Ric Flair arrives in a limo. He has Asia, Arn Anderson, DDP, and Charles Robinson with him.
Listen, I don't want to delay this, but can I cut you off here?
Have at it.
Was there like a pay-per-view the night before?
I have no idea. They were off one week.
What in the fuck is going on?
I don't know. I was so confused for so much of this.
So, like... a bunch of shit happened somewhere.
Yes.
Where?
I don't...
I'm guessing Thunder.
Was it Thunder?
I believe Slamboree aired between this show and the last Nitro we watched.
Okay, so Slamboree was the week prior.
Or the night prior, I'm not sure.
So they had I think it was the week prior. So it would have been Slamboree, then no Nitro, then Nitro a week later.
Yes.
Okay. Whatever the fuck happened, like, they did have a video package an hour into the show.
More, yeah.
Okay, now listen. If you want to save your video package for an hour into the show, knock your fucking self out. I don't care. But don't reference anything in it until it's aired. The first hour of this show is them doing a bunch of storylines, presuming that we watched Slamboree. Okay? We didn't watch Slamboree.
No.
Nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but like, if you think about the number of people that were still watching Nitro at this time, millions and millions and millions of people. Lots of them. Most of them. 95% of them or more. In fact, I know it's more because their buy rate percentage was like 2.5. Okay? So 98.5% of these people
Did not watch Slamboree.
98, 97, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. They didn't watch Slamboree. These assholes are just, they're doing interviews and they're doing angles. Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Diamond Dallas Page, and Little Nate all show up in a limo. What? Why? Not explained. Then Charles Robinson goes and there's a door with, and listen, give credit where it's due. Raw today, they take a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and they get a laser printer and they write like chairman's office.
Right.
Okay, this is ghetto. They at least had like a big fucking nice embossed seal. It says office of the president of WCW on the door. There's a real brass nameplate. Charles Robinson slides it out. It says Roddy Piper and he changes it to Ric Flair. What? What the fuck happened? Now, on top of all of that, let's pretend that they did tell us what happened. Because they did later. Do you want to know what happened? At whatever fucking event this is, whenever the fuck it occurred?
What happened, Brian?
Roddy beat Rick!
That's correct.
So why is Roddy's name being replaced with Ric fucking Flair?
I don't know.
What the fuck is going on this show?
I have no idea.
This was the first 2 minutes.
Yes.
And then there's an hour of that. I had no fucking idea what was going on.
No. It felt like we missed
I
6
wrote
months.
2 books about it.
Yes.
Imagine being a viewer. Imagine being a fucking viewer. What is going on here?
I'm curious as to what the rating was for that pay-per-view because they didn't have a Nitro last Monday, so there was no lead-in to their pay-per-view.
No, I think the pay-per-view was the Sunday before. We're 8 days away from the pay-per-view here.
Right. So the pay-per-view, the day before. The pay-per-view was the night before the Nitro that was not on.
Yes.
I see, yeah.
We're 8 fucking days away. So even if you had watched it, I don't remember what happened on a WWE pay-per-view 8 days ago.
I don't know what I did yesterday.
Fill me in. Please.
So Mean Gene brings Flair and his crew out for a promo. Crowd cheers Flair, they cheer Arn, but they boo Benoit and Malenko when Arn mentions them. Flair calls out Ted Turner, threatens to fuck Jane Fonda.
He mentions he's the president, which, far as I know from watching the video later, he's not.
I am done with the president, commissioner, owner, executive VP. I will not use any of those terms going forward.
Well, I guess I'll do it.
Okay. Flair books himself and Robinson against Randy Savage and Gorgeous George. Randy Savage and Gorgeous George is the match he books.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Calls out Paige. Paige comes out and Flair says, I am going to help you regain the world title tonight.
He lost it? To who?
And Paige starts talking. I thought, wait a minute, when did Paige lose the title? Who's the champion now? This seems like a major point. You should tell me, the viewer. So, Paige says Kevin Nash has Eric Bischoff in his pocket. Bischoff? When the last time we saw Bischoff, he was doing chores for Ric Flair and being in a dunk tank.
Yeah. Now he's an executive again.
So
Why? Fuck if I know.
So Paige says he's putting a gang together. He brings out Bam Bam Bigelow. So in this segment, we had either appearing or mentioned Dallas Page, Bam Bam Bigelow, Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Randy Savage, Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff. I have no idea who, if any of these people, are supposed to be the baby faces. Zero.
Did I watch the whole show? I still don't know.
It did not get answered. It was not answered 3 hours
segment.
later. And then, dude,
This fucking Bischoff tape promo.
imagine, if you will, Brian, I know you're not a fan of the NFL. Bear with me for a moment. Imagine if you turned in to see a Dallas Cowboys football game on Monday Night Football, head-to-head
do
with
that?
Nitro. Just go with me.
I'm sorry.
So you say, I'm going to watch some football. And you turn on the football game, and instead of seeing football, there's a half hour of Jerry Jones talking. And Jerry Jones could give the exact same speech about his football team that Eric Bischoff gave about his promotion here. I took over. I made them I brought them to the top. We were number one for 80 whatever weeks in a row. In Jerry's case, it was we won 3 Super Bowls. And then things turned around and hasn't gone as well as I'd like. But I'm back in charge now. I'm going to make sure we get to the top. And that went on for a half hour.
Yeah.
What the fuck was this?
You know what? It wasn't even like it was nonstop. There's a promo, then there's a video package for Brett and Goldberg, then there's Bischoff again. Then they go, I swear to God, they go from a Bischoff video to a shot of the crowd back to the video again.
Yeah.
Why did I need to see that?
Again, let's go through
Can't
this.
we just get this over with?
Let's go through this in order. In this segment, the first Bischoff segment, I believe there were at least 3.
There were 3.
Bischoff makes his comment about being number one for 88 straight weeks. Now it's more competitive than I'd like it to be, but I will make us number one again.
Well, let's talk about this. It's one thing in 2018 to not remember exactly how many weeks it was, okay? You're a year. I don't even know if it was a year, okay? Maybe a year, maybe less than a year removed from winning all those weeks. Mm-hmm. It's 83. You can't even remember how many weeks it was. And, dude, pro wrestling has been a thing in this country for 140 years. And this motherfucker's on here bragging that he was on top for 88 weeks.
Yeah.
That's barely a year and a half, dude.
A blink of time.
Whoop-de-fucking-do. And then the crying, oh, we're much closer than I'd like to be right now. But he says, I learned from the mistakes I made. I learned from these mistakes. I know what it takes to become number one again. There's no doubt in my mind that someday we'll be number one again. Watching this fucking thing in 2018, howling with laughter.
So the point of this first Bischoff segment, the specific nitty-gritty, is that the on-screen story, this is not behind-the-scenes gossip, there's nothing you would see in the dirt sheets, the on-screen story is that Nitro sucks.
Yes! We fucked it up, but hey, listen, I'm going to turn it around again.
But yeah,
We didn't really need this storyline to figure that all out.
we've been well aware for some time.
Then this fucker promises he's going to turn it around. He presents this fucking show.
So that's the first Bischoff segment. Then there's the Hart Goldberg video package where Brett, after quitting, comes back and attacks Goldberg with a chair and then didn't appear on the show. So then we go back to Bischoff. Apparently he interfered in a Piper or Flair match, doing what he felt was right because Piper deserved to win. And again, I'll say this part again. The on-screen story is that Eric Bischoff is going to make this a better pro wrestling show by interfering in matches and determining who wins.
It ain't even that, dude.
This sucks on a metaphysical level.
You got more out of this than I did. Because once this fucking guy starts talking about angles at a pay-per-view that I didn't see, and that they haven't showed one clip for, he may as well have been fucking speaking Latin. He's talking about this match, and this finish, and this match. I'm like, what are you talking about? You interfered in what for who? Why? What happened?
Don't know.
What the fuck happened, dude? Help me out here. Then, they go to the goddamn crowd.
Actually, Brian,
No.
I quoted, this is what, they go to the crowd, and this is exactly what Tony Schiavone said. Bear with me. I think that kind of shed some capacity, I think that kind of shed some light on his capacity at Slamboree. No, not official capacity. Therefore, he cannot reverse the decision of Ric Flair and Roddy Piper. As a matter of fact, I do understand, speaking of Roddy Piper, where are we going to now? We're going to some more from Eric Bischoff, and then there's a long pause, and then Eric Bischoff is back.
And now...
Did anyone actually watch this television show?
Now he's back to crying again. He learned lessons.
Dude, when
He's rambling about good decisions and bad decisions.
I got an opportunity in 1993 from Bill Shaw.
Fuck.
I've been watching wrestling since 1987. I can say religiously. I don't know who Bill Shaw is, and I don't care. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, or why in 1999 anyone would have cared about who gave Eric his big break. The visceral hatred I had for this entire episode of Nitro at this point.
This was the worst, dude.
This was impossibly bad. Like, what person put down this format and wrote it out and said, hey, fans will like this. People will stick around and watch. That's impossible. There's no way this show had more than 10 viewers. Single digits across the globe.
Millions.
Sucks.
More than watch Raw today.
No.
Yes.
This,
Don't get mad. What do you want me to fucking do about it? I'm answering your question.
I don't know. I just hate people.
Wrestling fans are gluttons, Vinny. We should know this.
Well, I gave that speech.
They're
after
begging for it.
Backlash, so I can't. I'm more the same. So Piper and Bischoff arrive in a limousine. Now, to this point, we're like
40 minutes in live.
Yeah, nothing has happened on the show.
Nothing.
Nothing. But it's time for Mike today to join the announcers. Schiavone has another line about how Bischoff turned the company around. So there's, from left to right, you're looking at Mike Tenay, Tony Schiavone, and Bobby Heenan. Mike Tenay goes in a spiel about Bret Hart and The Tonight Show, and I don't care. Tony and Heenan are sitting there looking bored, and that's the shot for more than a minute.
Yeah.
This is TV 101. This is community college TV production school. Don't shoot like this. The crowd is desperately bored. Starts training for the Nitro girls.
Who aren't there.
Weren't even there. We had clips of Gorgeous George against Charles Robinson at the pay-per-view. And now we finally get wrestling.
Let me tell you about this wrestling, by the way. It's the debut on Nitro of Evan Courageous. He's exceedingly green.
My God.
He goes in there
So bad.
to wrestle Rey Mysterio. We're 45 minutes into the show. There's been no wrestling. They finally trot out these two guys to have a Cruiserweight Championship match. Now, granted, the match probably would have been bad if it were 9 minutes long, but it was supposed to be 9 minutes long. They fucking get in the ring and someone goes, take it home. Immediately.
I assume Ray.
They fucking go home.
Evan fucks up everything. Can you imagine having your Nitro debut with Ray Jr. and it's a sloppy mess? Evan fucks up everything. Ray says, fuck this. It's a top rope Rana, wins. So yes, 45 minutes waiting for a match that went like 2. A wretched show. A wretched program.
I don't know if I can finish this show here.
The only good thing that came out of this, I remember that Driving and Crying song, Fly Me Courageous, and I went back and listened to it. There you go.
Well, there's one. That's more than I got.
Okay.
The Horsemen go to Ric Flair's office with a special guest. Buddy fucking Lee Parker.
Who, what,
Now-
when, where, why, and how.
He hasn't been on TV in a while.
They answered none of these.
No. Now, because I watched wrestling religiously, I knew Buddy Lee Parker was one half of the State Patrol, a jobber tag team on Saturday night. So I knew who he was. He's a short, thick, angry man. They take him to Flair's office.
Emphasis on angry.
He was very angry. They say, I will take you off the road. I will give you an office and a secretary. And it's Flair, so you know he meant to fuck. Flair has a speech.
He did infer that.
Every wrestling promoter, he says, has pushed their kid. Gagne did it. Watts did it. Von Erich did it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push my kid down everyone's throat.
He's telling the people that this is fake.
Yes. So he gives Parker the finish. He says, I'm booking you against David.
And he was confused.
When you get the signal, I want you to go down.
No, Vinny. He said, and I quote, how the fuck did you miss this, you moron? When Double A gives you the office.
The office. Excuse me, the office.
If fucking Buddy Lee would have said the offense, like,
Would it save the show?
I'm retiring, I can move to Hawaii, you'll never see me again. My life would be complete. But he didn't. Flair promises this fucking guy that if you do this for me, I'm taking you off the road, I'm giving you a cushy office job. Buddy Lee exhibits zero traits that would convince anybody that he could take on an office role in WCW.
So Malenko and Benoit tell him, we know how tough you are. Now we need to see how versatile you are. And you know, they had gotten the speech themselves once or twice. So they all leave with Parker. Flair brings out David and Tori, gives them the news. David's excited to hear about all this. He likes the finish. They all leave, and now it's left with Flair and Tori, and Flair flirts with her. So in the first hour of this show, we had whatever Eric is, whatever his job title of this company is, talking about making sure the right people go over to make the show better. Now, Flair's out here talking about promoters pushing their kids and giving guys finishes before the match. It's a bad parody of pro wrestling.
Tori looked amazing on this show. And
Yes.
Didn't matter one fucking bit.
as she was walking away, Flair's eyes followed.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Ric Flair had an eye for a lovely young woman. How out of character.
Astute observation, Craig. Thank
Well,
you.
You're lucky I was looking at Flair. Anyway.
Gene brings Booker T out for a promo. Booker is apparently feuding with Rick Steiner now, and I learned
He is?
Yeah.
later Rick Steiner is now TV champion.
Yeah, I learned that too. I was like, they were literally doing a match with Rick Steiner. And Tony goes, this match is for the TV title. And I was like, who's the fucking champion? It's like Rick Steiner and Sting. One of you fuckers is the TV champion. Where was I? They never bothered to tell me. I have no idea.
Not watching Slamboree.
Goddamn mystery.
So Booker lists all his championships, vows to win another TV championship tonight. David Flair versus Buddy Lee Parker.
Fucking atrocious.
David's out here. He has the gear and the physique of Zach Gowen with twice as many legs, but none of the talent. He's horrible. Grab a headlock and hang on is too much for David Flair to handle at this point in his life. So Parker fires up. The Horsemen all jump on the apron. The match continues. David Flair gets worse. I was begging for Evan Courageous to come back at this point.
Fuck off. Get out of here. This sucks. Buddy's given the office. David puts on the figure 4. Buddy Lee taps.
Yeah.
Fans just boo their asses off. Not in a good way. Like, fuck you, what are we watching? This was horrifying. The only good thing about it was Charles Robinson wearing Ric Flair's trunks, knee pads, and boots under his referee shirt.
Yeah.
And Tori.
That was worth. Not even Tori. This was that bad.
Need I remind you, Buddy Lee Parker's the one that told Batista he had no future in wrestling.
May I remind you, Buddy Lee Parker's the one who trained Goldberg, who's in the fucking Hall of Awesome. His legacy needs to be rewritten.
The following segment is the only thing stopping this from being one of the all-time worst TV shows in the history of the world.
Yes.
Ric Flair and Charles Robinson versus Randy Savage and Gorgeous George. First of all, before it gets good, it's more bullshit. George comes out on crutches in heels.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, now let's just jump ahead. What's the story here? Was this a ruse for something later?
Yes.
Okay. Because later she's just running around with no crutches.
Yes.
Okay. So they saw the future.
Yes.
How?
I don't know. What do you want me to do?
That's impossible.
Randy Savage and Gorgeous George set a trap for later. They knew someone would be in the ring, and they would want to get him. And so they set a trap and said, you get these crutches and pretend you're hurt. We'll have Medusa wrestle instead. This is a win-win all around. I'm not going to complain, Brian, that Medusa was in this match instead of Gorgeous George.
It's true.
Huh.
So, first, what?
Trying to find out where these women, where she stopped using her crutches.
You remember?
Where was it?
It was during the match.
No, it's during the promo. There's a promo later.
Oh, my bad.
Savage attacks somebody.
Who was it?
It's Piper.
Piper, okay. So they knew that Piper was going to come out later.
Sure.
Well,
Okay.
they saw him walk in the building.
Yes.
This is so fucking dumb.
That's where it gets unbelievable for you?
I mean, it's all unbelievable, but I was so angry watching this.
So, Charles Robinson was the best.
Yeah, he was.
Him and Medusa.
Charles
It takes
Robinson
two to tango.
and Medusa. It was Charles being a goof, Medusa being a badass, and it was great and funny and awesome.
And she was kicking his ass. Like, she was legit taking him
Dude,
down.
There's no doubt in my mind that if they got into a fight, she'd kill him.
Oh, man, she was brutalizing him. The place is just going nuts. All they wanted was wrestling.
Charles is out there strutting around. He's got Ric Flair's tan and Giant Baba's arms. They go to a lockup. and
She couldn't find his arms.
Robinson's lockup is this. And Medusa has to lunge forward like 8 feet and just grab him.
Yeah.
But that made it look better because she reached out and grabbed him like a bear and just took him down. So, both Nature Boys throw tantrums. Charles was actually better. And then we get Savage and Flair for a second. And then we get Robinson and Savage, which went about how you'd expect. Medusa tags back in. And she grabs Charles Robinson for a pile driver. Now, if you watch the mechanics of this, Charles Robinson should be dead right now. Because Medusa picks him up to do a sit-down pile driver, like most pro wrestlers do. But then instead of dropping to her ass, she drops to her knees, so Charles Robinson's head hits the ground. And Charles, instead of tucking his chin, he like arches his head, so he's like looking at the mat as he comes down. The exact wrong angle to land on your head.
There's no real good angle on your head, but you're right.
You're
He
right.
took it like he was taking the Styles Clash.
Yeah. The only reason he's alive today is because he is so small, and Medusa, Medusa's an athlete, obviously, but she's not China or Asia. She's not like a giant powerhouse. But she was still strong enough to give him the gentlest, softest tombstone I've ever seen. So I'm laughing and laughing and laughing. And then Flair gets in.
This was the best.
How many horrible intergender matches on Lucha Underground did we watch and bury and talk about how we hated it and it made us sick, we didn't want to watch them? 20 years ago, Ric Flair and Medusa doing intergender stuff, and it's awesome.
If it were not for when she nearly killed him with the backdrop,
That's true.
this would have been the best wrestling on Nitro in, I can't even remember how long.
They did do a backdrop spot, and he was a little too big for her, I think.
Oh my God. But yeah, they work great together. She beat the shit out of him. He gets a heat with a belly to back.
Yeah.
He drops her on the mat. He's not punching her in the fucking face.
He's not
or
stomping her or kneeing her.
nothing.
Didn't even chop her. He wrestled her.
She was riding him like a pony at one point.
He's selling his ass off for her.
It was great.
Probably getting more than a little bit of a thrill out of it. So Savage makes his comeback. Both Nature Boys go up top and get press slammed off. They both do Flair flips. Medusa's beating Ric Flair, up in the aisle. And Flair has no problem selling for her. I need everyone to remember that next time if you're an indie wrestler and you think maybe you're too big or too bad to be selling your opponent, Ric Flair sold for Medusa here in the aisle.
Sure did.
And Savage pinned Robinson with the big elbow. This match ruled.
So he crushed his esophagus and punctured a lung, I believe, with this flying elbow.
Broke some ribs as well.
Nearly killed this poor fucking guy.
On this one spot?
Yeah, that elbow.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, because his knee's all
He
fucked up.
legit
And so
almost died.
Oh.
he legit elbowed the guy in the birdcage chest.
That's
Whatever
not cool. The what now? Sternum.
No, it was I was watching a Zack Sabre Jr. match.
I see.
And
His chest looks like a bird cage.
they had
A bird.
That's true.
they had what's his face? The hippie. I forgot his fucking. I'm so furious right now. I can't even think
The
straight.
guy that's in New Japan that used to be in
C.J.
NXT.
Parker.
Yeah.
The hell's his
Juice something.
Juice Robinson.
Juice Robinson, yeah.
Juice Robinson's doing commentary. And
really?
like, it's so awesome because Juice, he's going to be feuding with the guy, so he has to put him over.
Yeah.
But he's also fucking marrying him.
Okay.
He didn't say he had a chest like a bird cage. He said he had a chest like a bird.
Yeah.
You know, just like a skinny ass little chest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He goes, he's got a fucking chest like a bird. But goddamn, he wraps you up. It was like he would bury him, but then put him over, and bury him, and then put him. I was
That's what you do.
howling.
That's how it's supposed to be done.
That's what you do.
Hell yeah, that's what I do.
I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Sure, he's a nice guy, but fuck, and slide him through a keyhole. So yeah, they almost killed Charles Robinson, this poor guy.
Jump around in the shower to get wet.
That sucks. And that's the end of the good shit on Nitro. Gene brings Piper out for a promo.
Ah! This fucking Roddy Piper. Here's what I gotta say about it, okay? It's goddamn terrible. Even Roddy knew.
Roddy said like 4 times.
Roddy is literally, it's a bunch of gay jokes, flair and drag. It's terribly unfunny. And he keeps telling us, I'm just reading it.
I didn't write this.
I didn't write it.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I gotta say is, as fucking terrible as this was, the Al Snow thing with the goddamn deer head on Raw
That was worse.
was way worse than this.
Yes, I concur.
Now, you said that he said, I didn't write this. I'm just reading it.
Yes.
He actually had a clipboard with him.
Yes.
He was literally reading it.
He's reading this bullshit. And then he calls out Eric.
Top 10 reasons why Flair shouldn't be president.
He buries Eric 6 feet under for his bullshit interview earlier. And Bischoff says, judge me by what I do, not what I say. Piper doesn't believe a word he says. Piper is way smarter than I ever gave him credit for.
Did you catch?
Between burying this comedy and not believing a word Bischoff said, this was mind-blowing.
Did you catch when they arrived together at the building?
Well, that's another story entirely.
Well, they arrive together at the building. We don't know why, but Bischoff says after you, and Piper says something like, "No, I don't trust you behind me. After you." Because Piper was crazy, but he was not dumb.
Key
So,
point right there, by the way. That's a key point.
Yes.
He was crazy, but he wasn't an idiot.
speaking of crazy, Randy Savage comes back out. Earlier, like 10 minutes earlier, he was the star of the show and that everyone loved him and everyone's hero. Now he's a bad guy in this segment. He wants a title shot against Nash. Piper says, "You get up, but you have to wait." Here is the point where George hits Piper with a crutch. So they had her on crutches for this whole show so she could hit Piper with one here.
So they knew there was going to be a bullshit Roddy Piper interview, and they were going to, and they knew. Okay, think about this. All right, you said that you saw Roddy Piper show up, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in their mind, they knew there would be a bunch of people out there, and they needed Gorgeous George with a crutch to jump Roddy Piper from behind for Randy Savage to get the heat on Roddy Piper.
Yes.
They knew that in advance. Bullshit.
That was their plan.
This fucking sucks.
So
And then, correct me if I'm wrong. Randy Savage, he wants a title shot with Kevin Nash tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. He gives Piper a pile driver. He gives Eric a body slam. Eric goes up as heavy as humanly possible. I don't know how he wasn't killed.
Well, he saw what he did to Charles Robinson.
Randy goes up for the elbow, and I'm like, this is the end of Eric V. It's his fucking thing. But Kevin Nash comes out to make the save. Savage starts screaming at Nash, "Give me a title shot against that geek!"
That's a quote.
Those were his exact
We
words.
call it that geek.
Bischoff jumps up now. He's not selling a thing. Nash accepts the challenge for tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what happened.
Savage challenged Nash
Right.
to a title match tonight. Nash said, okay.
Sure. And then he called his women hookers.
Match was Nash and DDP.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
There
that.
was no fucking Randy Savage. What in the fuck was this?
I don't know.
They spent all that time setting up a match that didn't even happen?
Right.
Maybe they didn't say tonight. I'd given up by this point. I want to talk about how Savage says, maybe you can lay down for me like you did for that other guy in the Georgia Dome. Nash's reply to this is, that was a political move. A political move, he says, here in the ring. You have to get this title out of my dead hands. So we can add to the list of inside references, dropping the title as a political move.
I hate this show.
This is awful.
This is one of the worst shows
I wish
I've ever
pain.
seen.
I wish pain and misery on those responsible for this program.
This made national fucking television.
And after all that,
You understand? This was on national TV. People were getting paid six figures for this.
Yeah. So Nash and Piper and Bischoff all left together, and it took a long time to do it.
They finally show us clips from the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
After they showed them, I was even more upset.
Yeah, I was going to say, was this any better?
This show looked like an absolute fucking disaster. I didn't understand a goddamn thing that happened, even with video. And that's when I figured out that Piper beat Flair. I was watching an entire show where Flair was in charge based on a win that never happened. Then they set up a match that never happened.
right.
Yeah. So that happened. I don't know what happened in that match. I don't care.
Then we finally got some wrestling.
Sting and Goldberg, clips of that looked awesome, and then Bret Hart and both Steiners ran out and attacked both dudes. So yes, Rick's just a bad guy now. And then, yes, more than halfway through the show, we finally are shown Kevin Nash beating Dallas Page for the world title. So great. So, if you want to call this wrestling, I'm not sure.
This was not wrestling.
Hack comes out.
Oh, God.
As long as we're listing dated references, Hack is wearing an Evil Ernie t-shirt.
That's right.
That made me laugh. He claimed to have beaten up Bam Bam Bigelow and Kevin Nash and Bill Goldberg. What?
I don't know what he's fucking talking
What?
about.
What? What?
Who cares? They're
The
just making shit up
Sandman
now.
beat up Goldberg? I'm skeptical. So Finley appears on the big screen and says, I'll come out and fight you. Finley versus Hack. They take turns hitting each other with shit for 10 goddamn minutes.
Well, hold on. To be fair, Finley did try to structure this as a match.
He did?
Involving gimmicks. He tried. I don't know about Hack. Here's my theory. I got several things.
Did you say Fury or Theory?
Theory.
Little of column A, little of column
Okay,
B.
so this is a hardcore match? Okay, so there's a bunch of shit in the ring?
Sure is.
Why the absolute fuck did Nick Patrick tell Finley, you can't use this kendo stick?
I don't know. Why? What happened?
And then
50 minutes in, by the way.
And then 2 seconds later, Hack gets it, and the ref doesn't care.
No.
They waffle each other in the fucking head.
Just went through a commercial, everybody.
Brian Knobbs comes down, and I swear on a stack of Bibles this
Yes.
happened.
Yeah, it did.
Brian Knobbs comes down to the ring. He starts attacking both guys. Tony Schiavone says, this is a fucking quote. Well, there's nothing Nick Patrick can do about it. That's
what he said.
It's a hardcore match. And then Nick Patrick goes, ring the bell.
Yeah.
There was a disqualification
In a hardcore
in a hardcore match.
They've been hitting each other with
There's
weapons
no
for
way.
15 minutes.
There's no way I can finish this.
They couldn't contain.
There's no
mayhem.
way I can make it to 2001. I can't.
No, you can. You have to.
I can't.
We are on a quest to watch all of these nitros,
You are.
and we are going to finish
There's
them.
no way you're watching them, dude. They're only getting worse.
so fucking bad. I'm so happy. Can you imagine they were still around?
No.
We should all get down on our knees and thank the Lord above.
They survived, Vinny, as
for
TNA,
killing.
and we watched it.
Yeah, that sucked too.
They hired everybody.
I know.
Now, how long until Finley is in the match where he
I don't think it's
destroys
much
his
longer.
leg?
Almost loses his
like,
leg, yeah.
It's like a couple months, right?
I fuck if I know.
That fucking junkyard battle royal.
That's it.
You know. Rick Steiner's supposed to wrestle Booker T. Booker T is laid out backstage. I'm just skipping through the end of the show. I don't give a fuck anymore. Booker T is laid out backstage. Rick says, that's fine. You couldn't beat anyone without your brother's help. Somebody come fight me. Out comes Sting. So they do a match. Sting versus Rick Steiner. Bobby Heenan had a line here where he says, when you kick a man while he's down, you don't have to kick him that far. Word.
That's true.
They brawl on the floor. Sting makes a comeback in the ring. Scott Steiner comes out. Lex Luger comes out. Nothing happens. The ref calls for the bell.
Yep.
And what happened to the press conference from last week?
Wasn't Luger a heel?
I don't know.
Luger was like a heel. He was going to do a press conference. He had satellite issues, and then it just was totally dropped. Now he's here as a babyface.
Yes, last time I saw him before that was the Wolf Pack.
Fucking
he turned on
goddamn
Goldberg.
terrible.
Yes.
The only thing that I got is I try and find something interesting about every match.
Okay.
What I got out of this was, I don't know if it's interesting, but you got Rick and Scott are brothers.
Understood.
See, I think I see where you're going already.
Okay, so Scott comes across like his character is like a crazy guy.
Sure.
Okay. But whenever you watch him in the ring, like you never feel that his opponent is actually in danger.
Okay.
He cooperates with his opponent.
Sure.
Like he carries himself as a dangerous crazy guy. But when he actually works, it's like, guy's all right. Fucking Rick Steiner. This guy looks like he's just going to fuck with everybody. If he doesn't like you, he's going to beat your ass right there in the middle of the ring.
Sure.
There's nothing you can do about it. He doesn't give a shit. He's collecting his paycheck and going out there and doing whatever he wants, and he's actually dangerous. That's what I got watching this match. It was with Sting that he was cooperating with.
Yeah. There is a point, I forget what show it was Nitro or Thunder, but Rick Steiner's supposed to wrestle Lash LaRue. And Lash is in the ring first, and he's being Lash, and Rick's doing his entrance, and he just walks calmly down to the ring, and he walks into the ring, and he walks up to Lash and punches him in the mouth. Just as hard as he can. Because he doesn't care. Conan versus Curt Hennig.
Point of all of this is that Filthy Tom and I will not be wrestling the Steiners. Okay?
Wise.
fair.
That is a
I
wise
want y'all to
decision.
know that.
It's a good idea.
I'm telling you that right now. So if that fucking guy offers the Steiners tomorrow, this is all over.
Conan and Curt Hennig had a horrible match. Just awful. Hennig stalls forever. Nothing happens. They go to commercial. And then Hennig takes over, and they lay on the mat doing leg holds. Fans are chanting boring over and over and over again. Goes for at least 15 minutes. The ref gets bumped. Savage comes out. He calls out Nash. Spits in Conan's face. Hennig knocks Conan out of the ring. Savage attacks him. Hennig wins with a super fisherman suplex. Hate this show.
When did Curt Hennig give up?
He had given up by here.
Long time ago.
I mean, yeah.
I used to love watching that guy.
And what happened to the West Texas Rednecks? They began and then they're not there anymore.
They must still be coming.
Speaking of people that have given up, go ahead, Vince.
It's Rob.
Don't they come back once they bring in
They do come back.
Master P?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was pointing out that they began it and then they just stopped.
Well, they had to
Hennig
wait for
win
Master P.
Hennig and win over tag champs. That's right.
Yeah, what the fuck happened with that? No one knows? Okay.
I forget. I don't know. Benoit Malenko versus Raven and Saturn. In hindsight, did people at the time realize what a boring tag team Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko were?
They were insufferably boring.
What?
I think they'd given up.
There was no fire in these two.
They didn't care.
They have 1 foot out the door right now, right?
Well, that's true. As does Raven, I think.
Now it's 2000, so they got months and months left.
Jeez.
Yeah, a few of these guys were the Radicals, and Raven wanted to join them. So this sucked forever. I don't know. It went a long time. It sucked.
It actually turned around at the end. Like the last
There
few
was
minutes
at least-
were good.
Sure.
Lots of boring chants. Boring chants in a match with Benoit Malenko
And Saturn,
and Saturn and
who
Raven.
has his days.
Saturn has a lot of talent. He's a lot of pluses. Anyway, this fucking thing just goes forever. Canyon's out there. I forget how or why. Fucking somebody interferes for arm interference for Benoit Malenko, but then Saturn interferes or Canyon interferes. Saturn wins with
Who cares? Match ends. Saturn wins. They go backstage. They run into Bigelow, and they're like, well, "Why don't you get a partner?" And he says, "Maybe I will." Turkeys.
Right.
Harsh.
Sick burn, dude.
DDP versus Kevin Nash. Bigelow's out there in Page's corner, interfering like crazy. I will say this, at least Kevin Nash was like the one guy in the show who put his match together so there would be a heat segment and the fans would cheer for a comeback. Nash is the best match layout on the show. The best match was Robinson, but Nash's match layout made the most sense.
Well, he's done it with DDP. What the hell do you expect?
That probably a lot.
DDP wrote it from start to finish.
That probably helped.
Handed him a script.
That probably helped.
Any questions? Here's my cell phone number.
Anyway, Bigelow hits the ring. It's not a DQ. Savage hits the ring. It's a fucking DQ.
I was astounded. I wasn't, but I was.
Garbage hits the ring. Savage is in there putting lipstick on Nash's face, and then I watched this like 20 times.
It was so awesome.
So the camera has a close up on Nash because Randy Savage has to put lipstick on his mouth and eyes and cheeks. For what I don't know why, but Savage is screaming, "Here's your world champion! Here's your world champion!" And he stops, and you hear him say, "Come on in, hot shot."
Yeah.
Hot shot came on in. Fan jumps the rail, gets on the apron. Doug Dillinger and security swarms him, but Randy Savage steps in. And if you watch this closely, Randy Savage actually shoves Dillinger out of the way,
Yes.
so that he can grab this fan, yank him into the ring, and beat his ass.
Not only that, he fucking tackles this guy. He gets the mount. He starts punching this fucking guy. The guy's all covering up. Security then jumps in again to try and get the guy. Savage goes after security. They finally pull him off.
Yeah.
A madman.
He's a lunatic.
He was so happy to get his hands on this idiot.
I was too.
And boy, did he just it wasn't a double leg, but it was just like he speared him.
It was a high tackle.
Yeah.
He like grabbed him around the shoulder and head and just powered him down because he's fucking Macho
The
Man.
best part about it was when Savage pulls him down from behind, the fan is excited. He throws up the devil horns. Woo!
Yeah, what an idiot.
Yeah, that did not last. That did not last.
And then gets him on the ground and just kicks the crap out.
One of the best fan run-ins I've seen.
He had a sweet mustache, too.
Well, are you ready for this?
It's you, Vinny.
Oh, hey, yeah. So, the match is a DQ. The best performers on this show were Charles Robinson and that fan.
Not the fan, Savage.
Either way.
Are you ready for your finishes?
I'm prepared, Brian. Thank you for the warning.
Okay.
The finishes on this show were clean pin, submission in a match where the fix was in, clean pin, DQ in a hardcore match, DQ due to guys running in and not touching anybody, pin after copious interference, and DQ due to run in. And yes, that's it. That's all the matches in a 3-hour wrestling show.
Awful. Yes, Rob.
You know, I was going to say, I feel like at some point I want to start going through and watching these.
No!
No,
Are you out of your mind?
What are you doing?
Yeah. Because I watched back then, and I hear you guys talking about them, and I remember bits and pieces from you describing them. I'm thinking, God, they can't be that bad.
Oh,
You're wrong.
And then I see how angry it makes you, and I'm like, I don't need that shit in my life.
No.
I'm angry enough as it is.
listen, Rob. Don't watch next week's show. Because next week's show is probably going to end up being good. And it's the show after Owen passes away, so you got the Benoit Bret Hart match.
Well, that's months later.
Oh, is it? I thought it was like,
Dude, Bret Hart's brother died.
Oh,
He did a
that's
match
right.
the next
yeah,
night.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, point is, it may be good. So, watch this show. Watch the one we just reviewed one time.
Here, instead of watching Nitro, take your wiener and slam it in a glass door.
Excuse me, you take your wiener?
Yeah. It's about the same effect.
Craig, I've been married for 20 years. I don't need my
Okay.
dick anymore.
Craig.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Craig, I got a sliding glass door outside. I guarantee you that slamming your dick in that door is worse than this fucking Nitro.
I'm not sure.
Are you out of your mind?
Maybe he meant an actual hot dog. Get your Oscar Mayer.
Well, yeah, obviously, I'd rather slam a wiener in that door than watch this fucking show.
I feel like we need a break. We have another show to review, and I'm not emotionally stable. And then we watch Nitro.
This fucking show. Yeah, let me hear you, Rob.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, Rob's talking about this show can't be that bad. Did
do
you
you
watch
think?
any of them?
What are you thinking?
I would like to say, I would like to now offer my heartfelt apologies
There you go.
to each of the three of you. I started watching last week's Nitro on Sunday. I made it through the
Last week's.
Yeah.
last week.
Oh, God, that was even worse than
That
this
was
one.
worse than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made it through the segment where Savage they hit Piper with the crutch,
Yep.
and that's when I started drinking. I pretty much drank the rest of the show because it was just fucking awful.
Was it not bad? Now you understand. Watch it every week, dude.
I may do it just for the hell of it, but yeah, that
You don't got to do it every
Why?
week.
Why?
I wish
why,
that
why
on nobody.
Would you do that?
But maybe once a month, watch one or the other. You can play along with this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible. And you know what? Did you hear what Rob just said, everybody? I want to add one other thing. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is too early to start drinking.
I don't know about that.
You East Coasters can start drinking at 7 o'clock at night when the WWE... We have to wait till the main event.
I don't have to wait.
I know. Just wanted to bring that up. I don't drink during the shows, but if I were going to, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, holy fuck. All right, let's talk about this terrible Nitro. It sucked.
All right, we can go home now.
Yep, that was it.
Nitro number 192, May 24th, 1999.
They did have some very nice things for Owen.
They opened with the memorial graphic, Owen Hart, the years of his birth and death, and the ringing bell salute.
And they didn't do 10, they went 3.
They went 3. Well,
WCW did that.
Yeah.
WWE did 10, WCW did 3.
It came out. It was classy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think theirs was like 1, 2, 3 for the end. WWE was a 10-bell salute.
I see. Yeah.
That actually makes more sense.
Just a blank graphic and 10 bell ringings would have been honestly
That's
covered.
okay.
They recapped the Sting, Luger, Steiner's confrontation from last week, then the Flair, Bischoff, Piper, Nash, Savage stuff, and then Luger, Sting, Steiner's again. I was already bewildered.
I was just glad that we actually got a recap, because last week we were all confused because we didn't know what was going on.
That's true, but
You're less confused now?
Yeah, they did a recap. I was still confused.
Now, you didn't let me finish.
Wait till we get to the Eric recap.
I so badly need a big giant chart.
It won't help, dude.
You see the charts in the movies where they're like, there's things pinned to the wall, and
No.
there's
You know what it
strings
is?
going everywhere
You ever seen one of those drawings of like an impossible room?
with like this, like a
Like you see the thing
MC
go up right here, but then it merged into something that it actually couldn't do.
or MC Escher, all the
Something
stairs
like that,
scene,
yeah. That's what your board would look like, trying to explain the Nitro storyline.
The universe WCW exists and just constantly folds in on itself
Yes.
and comes back anew.
Let's be
Yes.
honest, if it was Vinny's chart,
Oh no.
there'd be a lot of scribbles and crumpled up paper and a knife in the wall.
Holes I have punched in the wall.
Yes.
So on Thunder, apparently, Randy Savage tried to recruit Rey Mysterio Jr. because why wouldn't he? And Ray said no, so Savage beat him up.
Yep.
And he beat up Bagwell
Got to raise a total geek on this show.
and a ref and Lord knows who else.
Yeah, they treated the cruiserweights like gold here tonight.
Yeah. Bam Bam Bigelow and Dallas Page attacked Raven and Saturn backstage.
This was the most nice and easy beating you've ever seen. Like, Bigelow's sitting on this big box,
Sure.
and Saturn and Raven walk in, and DDP flies in. I think he hit him with a chair,
It was
but
a
it was
2x4.
like it was a 2x4. It was the lightest 2x4
right.
shot.
All right, Brian. We're both right. It was
Then
a 2x4. It was light.
Like they all fall down off screen, and then Bigelow gets a chair and he like hits the ground off screen.
Yes. Sounds great.
That was the whole beating.
Yeah.
Like, why did they bother? Why not just have the guys laid out backstage? This was so hokey.
That would have spoiled the end.
Very hokey.
6 minutes in, we finally go to the announcers. Mm-hmm. They acknowledge Owen's death. They wish the best to Brett and the rest of the family. And they run down all that's going on in the company on this show. Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus Van Hammer.
The new Van Hammer. The new Van Hammer.
Van Hammer's got a new look, and Bobby actually says, quote, maybe just a change of clothes will do it for him. No,
It did not.
No,
did
because
not-
he still had to wrestle.
do it for him.
So he is no longer a hippie. He came in here in his Adrian Adonis biker gimmick kit.
You know, it wasn't all his fault either.
What's that?
It was him and Chavo also sucked.
I thought it was...
You're not a fan of Chavo.
I'm not,
sucks.
neither am I. He had a great dropkick here.
Yeah. What's up, Rob?
Nothing. I was just going to say, I actually did try and go into this one as well, and I made it as far as this one before I
Still drunk? or-
Oh yeah, no, I blacked out after this.
Okay.
But one thing I did want to mention is, am I the only one who thinks that with this new look, that Van Hammer looked like the love child between a young Big Show and Diamond Dallas Page?
Well, he was tall.
He was blonde.
Yeah.
He was tan.
He had, I guess it was Big Show's hairstyle and Page's hair color.
I think the problem is we're watching too much of the current Big Show. This guy looked nothing like the current Big Show.
Both Big Show and Dallas Page are way better than Van Hammer.
That's true.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let me write that down.
Yeah. So they had it was a fine opener.
Dude, it sucked. What are you talking about? Van Hammer just goes out there and hits one random move after another. None of them have anything to do with anything else. I'm going to hit you with a move. I'm going to hit you with another move. I'm going to give you a bear hug. I'm going to hit you with another move. And then he sidewalk slams him and pins him. There was no comeback.
It was an Alabama.
There was no story. It was a what? Whatever.
Alabama
Doesn't
slam.
fucking matter. He slammed him.
Hey, consistency. The people need to know.
No, they don't.
Someone at home is making a Van Hammer edit for their video game, and needs accuracy on what his finishing move is.
All I know is another fucking big lug is getting a push.
That is a fact.
It never works.
And it goes back to what's your favorite thing about Nitro? I don't know if it's a favorite thing, but they're in a wrestling war, and the match they throw out to start is Van Hammer and Chavo Guerrero Jr.
This was the fucking opener.
Yeah.
Van Hammer with his new change of clothes and Chavo.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. They're unopposed in the first hour.
Craig, what has Chavo ever done of any value?
I don't know.
He has had moments in his career, usually as a tag team partner or a faction with somebody else.
Him and Eddie.
Those
They were
Guerreros
awesome.
were a fun tag team. He was part of Misfits in Action, which was fun. Maybe it won't be in hindsight, but it was fun at the time.
You have much fonder memories of the Misfits in Action than I do.
I'll see how it goes.
Literally the only thing is Eddie and him when they were lying, cheating, and stealing. Dude.
Yes.
Yeah, because of Eddie.
That did help.
I could have
granted.
put Vinny
Granted.
with Eddie. It would have been good.
That's true.
Wow.
That's true.
Jeez. Stiff.
Just telling you.
It's true. Me and Eddie would have been a great tag team. I just stood in the corner, he jumped on my shoulders, that'd be it.
Okay.
Me and Gene brings Disco Inferno out for a promo. Disco's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, he's not dancing. Killing his gimmick.
He got beat up.
He's wearing sunglasses. Gene demands he remove them. Disco's face is all beat up, apparently at the hands of Randy Savage. And Disco talks about all the horrible things Savage had done on Thunder just to get a shot at Nash. If you wanted a shot at Nash, I got his phone number, his email, his pager, his fax. You could have just asked me.
If you would have had Paisley draw a black eye on you, she probably did a better job than the make.
Yeah, she'd have jabbed me in the eye. Would have looked like that.
Okay.
So Disco's wrapping things up when the Cat's all-time terrible generic network edit music
Yeah,
plays.
what the fuck was this?
It will never not be funny. Cat comes out and he says, Disco, you're out here crying just because you got beat up a little bit. And I thought, oh my god, he's talking to Dakota Kai.
He actually was. You're a punk, he says. You make me sick.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
So they start brawling and Cat beats Disco's ass.
Yeah.
Now I know he came in hurt, and yes, Sonny Ono tripped him at one point, but Disco is the geek to end all geeks here. Mm-hmm. Like more often than Disco Inferno usually is. So Cat starts calling out fans because this segment just won't end. They cut to the back. The B team is watching, laughing at Cat.
Swear to God, I was certain I'd been watching the wrong show.
It felt like we got back in time.
And all I can think is, have I not seen the B team tell Scott Norton that the Shad is calling him out like 4 times in the last 3 months?
It's a game to them.
And then, as I am saying that, the announcers say, this is like the 3rd or 4th time this has happened in the last few months.
Yes.
Is this fucking going anywhere? Good.
I'm guessing no.
I don't want to hear, yeah, it's going somewhere. He beats him up again. Okay? Is it going anywhere? Good.
So Norton had been shaving in the NWO locker room when he got the news, but he had shaving cream on his face, and he comes out, he toweled off before he came out. He does like 2 chops, and Cat bails, and Norton gets huge cheers, like the biggest baby face in the world. And as usual on Nitro, I have no idea who the good and bad guys are and who I'm supposed to cheer for.
Would it have been
It's
so
a great
bad?
mystery.
It would have been so bad if there was some continuity in the show and only half of his face was shaved.
No,
something.
he should have had the stuff on his face when he came
shaving
out.
cream on his face.
Okay.
Fucking stupid. And you know what? The reaction to Norton, all World Championship Wrestling fans wanted to see was action.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you understand me?
Yeah.
That's all they wanted to see was 2 dudes getting it on. And they can't even fucking give them that.
No.
They just have to keep doing shit. Wait till we get to Bischoff's fucking interview.
Mike Tenay walks up to Ric Flair's office, knocks on the door, and then walks in even though nobody answers. Kevin Nash highlight video. I will say this is much better than the last one. The last one was like Kevin Nash fixes his hair for a minute. Here, at least he was slamming dudes and booting them in the face and looking big and scary.
Okay.
Ric Flair and Arn Anderson met with El Dandy.
This was funny.
Said, you are the greatest Mexican warrior of all time. Tonight, though, you'll be wrestling David Flair. Arn will give you the signal, and you'll go down.
What was up with Rick?
He's being Ric Flair.
Maybe he got yelled at for saying The Office.
So
Okay.
Flair, that's probably true. Flair promises if you do me this favor, you'll stay on this side of the border forever. No more tacos, he says. And I thought, what?
Yeah.
How was that incentive?
Just steak
Tacos
and,
are awesome.
just steak and chicken.
So, El Dandy, I guess.
Vinny, tacos are good. If I could have steak, I'll take the steak.
How about steak?
And I'm a Mexican.
Steak tacos.
Steak tacos.
I'm a Mexican.
Chicken tacos.
All I know is the reason that Flair went like this was because he wasn't sure this guy spoke English.
That's part of it, too.
So whistling.
He ends up he did speak English.
So whistling is the
Yeah.
international
Yep.
symbol.
Have you ever never watched Arena Mexico? It's nothing but whistling during the heat.
So El Dandy leaves, and Sarge steps up.
Dwayne Bruce.
Now, last week, he had...
Dwayne. He looks like a Dwayne.
Dwayne.
You have a good friend named Dwayne?
I do.
Okay.
He looks
Yeah.
like a Dwayne too.
He does.
Yeah. How about The Rock?
Less
He does
than
not
Dwayne.
look like a Dwayne.
He's the biggest damn Dwayne I ever saw. So, El Dandy leaves. Sarge arrives. Sarge is upset because, of course, he did Flair a favor last week by lying down for David, and now Flair has to live up to all those promises he made. To which Flair replies, and a quote, I got you a Gold's Gym membership. What more do you want? That was funny. So they suck up to him. They say, it's going to take time. We'll fulfill our word to you. But for tonight, we will give you a match against Chris Benoit. And Sarge accepts and says, I'll never take it.
That was a reward, by the way.
I don't know.
Yeah, he just wants to work. And Flair noted being president of the world is a tough job.
It is.
I'm guessing it would be.
So Gene's interviewing Mike Tenay.
Yeah, they brought out Tenay to try to explain a storyline.
So Tenay says, because we have the president, Ric Flair, we have Bischoff, who we'll get to, we have Commissioner Piper, and there's also a board of directors. Because what WCW is, everyone, is this massive bureaucracy. And occasionally there's wrestling matches.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
So what
They went out of business.
So-
'Cause nobody wants to fucking watch that.
Tenay says Nash went to the board of directors, demanded a match with Savage, and he will get that match at the Great American Bash. So he finishes his sentence. I can take it back. He's about to finish his sentence
Yeah.
when Gene says, okay, got it, go! And he pushes Mike Tenay out of the way, and out comes Flair for the real promo.
Yeah.
So
I love that Tenay explained it was unprecedented in the history of wrestling for a champion to challenge a challenger for a championship match.
what he said.
Unprecedented.
Never happened.
Yeah. Skeptical.
So Flair comes out. Flair's been doing TV for 20 years at this point, and I don't know if it's his fault or their fault, or if they actually did it on purpose, thinking it'd be part of the story. Flair can't figure out what camera to use, and he's talking about it.
Yeah.
He's telling the director, which camera do you want? This one?
Well, I
I'll
mean,
talk to this one.
he's partly crazy in storyline. He did tell him not to wrap him up,
Yeah.
so he's a gimmick.
He storms down and he says, "Sit down, honey. Your mom got to ride Space Mountain 20 years ago. Maybe tonight'll be your turn."
Yeah. So that
I laughed.
So again, Ric Flair I think is bad. Randy Savage
He's a heel.
Randy Savage I think is bad.
Yes.
Kevin Nash I think is good. But Flair comes out here and says Savage's elbow is illegal. Nash is going to squish him. What's happening? Somebody please.
He killed Charles Robinson.
I don't know.
I don't understand. He runs down Bischoff. He runs down Piper. I was beside myself.
Dude, I was bewildered. I had no idea what he's talking about. I had absolutely no idea. And then Gene says, Rick, what's going on with this stuff backstage with Dandy and Dwayne Bruce? Sarge. And Flair starts ranting about this or that. And then Gene's like, all right, we're out of here. Never even got his answer. That's like an important question. You know what I mean? That's an important question.
This is a very bad show.
It sucks.
Speaking of sucking.
No, Vinny. I remember Tori's outfit 19 years later.
It was the best thing on the show up to this
That was
point.
yes.
Unforgettable. Unforgettable.
You talk about Tori Wilson because clearly it's made an impression on you.
It sure did. Now, David, I guess we got to talk about him. He is among the worst wrestlers I've ever seen.
There was a point here.
Ever.
There was
in
a
my
point
life.
where I had determined David Flair was the worst wrestler I'd ever seen. And then he did manage to pull off a backdrop and nobody died. So I said, okay, I guess you're not the best.
Let's talk for about 20 minutes on his rope running.
We could.
His arms are at his side. He's running. He's hitting the ropes. He's not grabbing onto the top rope or the middle rope with his other hand.
No.
He has his arms down by his sides as he hits the ropes.
He's veering this way and that. Rob, have you ever been into a pro wrestling ring?
I have not.
You ever been in a boxing ring or a cage or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh, similar, but I could make you run the ropes in 2 minutes better than David Flair could.
Oh, yeah, easy.
And he'd been doing this training theoretically at power plant for weeks.
Wouldn't you think he would be able to do that just on the basis of being Ric Flair's son?
That would also
No.
help. It wasn't home much.
No.
Anybody who's watched wrestling would do a better job faking running the ropes.
This apple fell far from the tree.
It sure did.
Unbelievable.
So this fucking sucked if you haven't gotten the message yet.
Okay, so this is a very bad match. Let's jump to the
I can't
chase
believe they
here.
put David Flair on TV.
So there's a spot where Dandy punches David, and the Horsemen determine this fucking guy ain't gonna take a dive here. So Flair takes a ref, Arn gives a spinebuster to Dandy, and David puts on a figure 4 and wins. Okay. If that's all it takes, why are you paying guys to take a dive?
I don't know.
Just fucking help him win every time, for fuck's sake!
I don't know.
This show sucks.
If it makes a goddamn thing.
The show absolutely sucks.
Tori was ungodly hot.
She was.
She's all the announcers could talk about. They go to Gene. It's all he can talk about. She was a vision on this evening.
A vision in pink.
She wasn't pink. So Gene brings out Buff Bagwell, who challenges Savage to fight him face to face. But tonight, he has a match with Ric Steiner. Says, last time we wrestled, I nearly died in Columbia, South Carolina. Tonight I'll show you why I'm buff and I'm the stuff. And your brother will be there. And I'll show him why I'm buff and I'm the stuff.
Yeah.
He did do his catchphrase twice. Who wants to talk about Bischoff?
I will.
Good.
I will. You know what? This wouldn't have been maybe so bad if they weren't putting these fucking interviews in the middle of these shows. These are the worst wrestling shows of all time. And meanwhile, this fucking guy is on TV telling me that he is turning this company around.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you. Like, you think this shit is good? Seriously?
Yeah.
They have this video showcasing the last 7 years of Eric Bischoff's reign from 1993 to 1999. Or maybe it was, 6 years, whatever. But anyway, 7? 6?
Who cares?
9 minus 3?
I was doing
6?
math.
Okay, anyway, it's 6 years. Doesn't make sense. Or doesn't make... Point of this is, everything is going along just fine. They're talking about how Eric got some power. He signed Hulk Hogan. He signed Randy Savage. Then the Outsiders showed up. They powerbombed him through a stage. Turns out that he was in cahoots with them at that point. He decided if you can't beat him, join him. Roddy Piper outed him. Then he went on a power trip and he was running roughshod. Everything's going along fine. And then they actually show the video where Harvey Schiller allegedly stripped him of power. Do you remember that?
Kinda.
Yes. They did a storyline where Harvey Schiller stripped him of his power, but he kept running the show anyway.
Yeah.
They added this to this video package.
Is that the time where he got drunk on the show?
No. They actually showed the footage of Harvey Schiller stripping him of power, and then the voiceover guy just says, he still wielded great power.
Yeah.
Then it spirals out of control.
Okay, yeah, you had the same reaction as I did.
I'm
Okay.
fucking watching them do a video package where, like, it's a fucking video package. You can spin any story that you want. Instead, they made it true to what actually happened.
And what happened
Which
sucked.
is just fucking bullshit. This was the dumbest fucking stupid bullshit video package I've ever seen. It was completely nonsensical. You came out of it thinking, this is the fucking dumbest company in the world. And then they go back to Eric Bischoff. They try to babyface the guy. And he's talking about how he's going to turn this all around.
Ah,
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is a parody of a wrestling show.
there was...
And I won't even talk about what comes next following this fucking video about turning everything around.
If you wrote down one sentence on paper and said, we will do a video package recapping Eric Bischoff's history, that would have been a great idea. in execution. Complete disaster. So they're doing a cruiserweight battle royal.
By the way, everybody, just remember, this cruiserweight battle royal followed that Eric Bischoff promo where he tried to babyface himself and talked about how he was going to turn this company
He's going to
around.
present the matches people want to see.
Yes. So we got a cruiserweight battle royal.
All the geeks come out at once.
Can we talk about the highlight of the geeks coming out?
Yes.
Don't even tell me you didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
I'm listening.
Oh my God.
I
It's
maybe
amazing.
So the first three guys come out, and in the lead is Juventud Guerrera.
Saw that, yep.
He takes his water bottle, he pours it over his head, he does his thing that he does. He takes one step. The water that had fallen on his head has fallen onto the sloped ramp.
Excellent.
His feet slip out from under him. He falls down and lands right on his coccyx. He grabs his ass. He is selling this, I swear to God, like he broke his ass.
I'm sure he did.
I confess I missed this.
He's grabbing his ass. He's rolling on the ground. Like guys are just walking past him and looking at him.
I did notice that part.
Yes.
Because he tried to either no sell it or pose or something.
Oh, he didn't no sell it, dude. He oversold
But
it.
he's standing in the aisle and everyone's kind of like veering around him.
Yeah,
Like,
and nobody
the Red
bothered-
Sea is partying around him.
Nobody bothered to pick him up.
Well, finally
That's Toby.
somebody like picked him up and patted him on the head. But man, it was the funniest fucking thing I ever saw in my life. And then he gets up and he cuts a promo. And then he's fine.
I think it was mid promos where I
Yes.
Got a promo on the ramp.
I howled.
So there's a dozen men out there. Lash LaRue is out there. Johnny Swinger's in this match.
Okay, let's forget about the names. Let me tell you what happened in this match.
Okay.
It's very simple. There's like 20 small men in the ring. Luchadors, Lash LaRue, fucking Blitzkrieg. They all get as close to the ropes as possible so that two guys can just randomly do high spots in the middle of a battle royal.
Because that's what cruiserweights do.
Nobody's trying to eliminate anybody else. It's just get out of the way so two guys can do a high spot.
Okay.
Get out of the way so two guys can do a high spot. One more thing. There is a point in this match where all of the luchadors are making a circle. And I have no idea why, but simultaneously, two guys are doing a high spot out of the corner.
Yes.
And also, randomly in the middle of the ring, Aviano has a man in a chin lock.
Yes. In a battle royal. See, when you said that they were getting out of the way of each other, I must disagree. They were in each other's way all the goddamn time.
They were trying to get out of each other's way,
Kind
but
of.
they couldn't.
Some guy would said, I'll do a spot now, but unbeknownst to him, a guy on the eastern portion of the ring would say, I shall also do a spot, and they went, bonk. This happened over and over again.
I literally would give $500. I swear on a stack of Bibles. I would give $500 US to sit. In fact, if I could go back in time, I'd give even more to watch it like live. But if I could sit in a room with Tim Flowers and have him watch this fucking battle, I would pay $500 for that experience.
No bumps in a battle royal.
Jesus Christ, this fucking
Tim
sucked.
did not put this battle royal together. So Lash and Blitzkrieg eliminate each other. I'll head scissors you. We both go over, or oh darn, we're out. So okay, fine, guys, we're out. Like 2 minutes pass, and the camera cuts. Now they're doing spots on the floor, and not just brawling or choking. Lash jumps up in the apron, does a big splash. What are you guys doing? You're
Spots.
out.
They're doing spots.
Leave. So then Jimmy Hart and Hugh Morris comes out. Hugh Morris looks exactly like Kevin Owens. He hits the ring and just throws everyone out. By the way, another reason this sucked. We forgot. So there's guys doing chin locks.
Chin locks.
There are guys-
Not even in a heavyweight battle royal. It's a cruiserweight battle royal, and a luchador's got a guy in a fucking chin lock.
There was at least one point in this battle royal where somebody tried to make a cover. Now, that's stupid in a battle royal. Making it even stupider, there was a referee in the ring. Why was there a referee in the ring?
He
He did not count this pinfall. He did not check if the man wanted to submit to the chin lock. Why was there a referee in the ring in the battle royal? I'm really getting angry. So Hugh kills everyone, tosses out all the luchadors, press slams.
Yeah, excuse me. Who, Hugh?
Hugh.
Oh, you mean Hugh Morris ran in the middle of a battle royal and started throwing men out?
A large person threw out all
happened.
small persons because
How
the
about
cruiserweight division sucks.
that? How
You should not
about
care about it. So the last ones are Hoovy and Kidman. Hoovy faces off with Hugh and then thinks better of it and just leaves.
So isn't Kidman the winner?
There was no bell. Who knows?
Was Hugh Morris an official entrant once he just came into a cruiserweight battle royal?
Kidman
Brian,
was the last guy in the ring, but there was no bell.
I believe this battle royal went to a no contest.
And then Ray runs down. Why wasn't he in it?
Well, because there's a reason. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Because the winner of this battle royal was getting a title shot against Ray.
That's right.
I see.
So
Well, he ran down and he got Morris out of there, so I think Ray won his own battle royal.
Yeah.
So he gets a shot at his own belt.
Sure.
I hate this show.
Had a
I fucking hate Nitro.
a recap of Savage and his crew laying out Piper and Bischoff.
I can't say this enough times. I was too kind in Death of WCW to this company. Do you understand me?
Yes.
I was too kind. I've got to write this book a third fucking time to tell the real story.
The real death of WCW.
This does. There are some shows here that are among the worst shows I've ever seen that I didn't even fucking write about in the book. Because there's only so much space.
Sure.
Fuck.
Okay. I must prepare myself for this next segment.
Oh, Roddy Piper interview?
I lost my damn mind. Gene interviews Piper. Piper calls out Savage. Savage's women come out instead.
We got a rare funny line from Piper when he says, "Welcome to Silicon Valley."
Yes, and Medusa,
That was funny.
And Medusa and George also thought it was funny, and they showed off their big fake boobs.
Yep.
So suddenly the tone got darker, and Roddy Piper, who I think is supposed to be a good guy, threatened to hit them.
Yeah. Well, they're heel women.
It doesn't matter.
Then,
I know that. I'm just explaining the stupid bullshit psychology.
then Ric Flair, who I think is a bad guy, came out to defend the honor of these women. Not even his women, just women in general.
I don't think he was defending the honor of the women. He just wanted to get his hands on Roddy.
So they start brawling, and then Dallas Page and Bam Bam Bigelow attack Roddy Piper. What in the fuck is going on? I can't even talk. What's happening? Dallas Page and Roddy and Bam Bam Bigelow are attacking Roddy Piper. Why?
They're
Why are
heels.
they there? God. So,
And by the way, it's explained why. They show up and they save Flair.
okay.
So Flair grants them a championship match at the next pay-per-view.
Okay.
They're getting in his good graces. I can't believe I'm defending this.
I can't either.
But if there's at least a smidgen of logic, I'll explain it to you.
So they leave. They got what they wanted. Flair goes after Piper, and then he books a match between the two of them at the Great American Bash as well.
Well, Paige says, "You owe us." Flair says, "Whatever your heart desires." They want a tag team championship match, and Flair says, "Done deal." Which does play into a storyline later as well. In fact, next, allow me, Vinny. It's Arn, Malenko, and Benoit backstage. Benoit and Malenko are upset that Flair has given DDP and Saturn a championship match.
DDP and Bigelow.
Bigelow. They want it.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Malenko, God bless these guys, Malenko launches into one of these goofy-ass work-shoot interviews.
Dude, this is...
For 2 years, we've been here working our ass off, and we're still in the same spot. We never get any opportunities. It's like you've got to have a driver's license that says you're over 45 to get a push. That's what he says.
push.
A fucking push. He says, "We thought it would be better under Ric Flair, but it's just as bad as when we were under Bischoff."
Dude.
I'm like, you know what? If you want to tell the story that you thought as a horseman that when Flair became the president, you would get opportunities and he did not give them to you, fine. Why the fuck do you have to bring up that nobody's happy backstage in this bullshit shitty company and that everybody hates it here? Fucking sucked.
I got 7 words into a rant. I wrote, "If this is a real sport, then," and then realized,
Why are you wasting your time?
What's the point? They're dead. They deserve to die. It's horrible television. It's horrible, just awful. Everything about this.
But Bischoff thought it was great.
Yeah, Bischoff's going to turn the company around with stories like this.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck there, buddy. Oh, it didn't work. It died.
So, Dean tells Benoit to take his time against Sarge tonight. Sting Luger highlight video.
I was very upset they spoiled the next few years of our Sunday night NWA show. God damn it.
Bastards. It was
Fuck.
a trap set for you in 1999.
It was. I tried to turn it off, but I was too late.
This fucker's going to write a book making fun of how he went out of business. We shall spoil his Sundays for 10 years after that.
Damn it. I know this Flair Sting match is coming up in the spring. I know that.
Oh, you forgot about Clash of
Oh,
Champions?
Sting and Luger win the Crockett Cup together. Damn it.
This was a really good video.
Sting
I
wins the
will be
title, and
honest.
then Luger wins it from Wyndham.
Yeah. Well,
Fuck.
that part's not good. But this is a very good video.
By the way,
explaining
there's
how they
another example of
paralleled
Luger
each
getting
other for a
fucked.
decade. Yes, well, you're right.
This poor guy.
So then they got into the NWO and fake Sting and all that stuff, and they went into this. And by the end, like everything in this era of WCW, it was convoluted and illogical, but the first part was fun. Highlights of the opening of the Nitro Grill at Excalibur.
Oh, yeah.
I did, in fact, eat there once.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I believe I got cheese.
What if they lasted longer than The World?
That's a good question.
I'll have to go back and check.
I don't know. Piper cuts a crazed promo backstage as his ribs are being taped up. He challenges Page and Bigelow and Flair to a 6-man tonight against himself and 2 partners.
You know, God bless Roddy Piper. He's deceased. He was a legend and a Hall of Famer. But this fucking guy thinks he's so clever.
Yeah.
And his interviews are so shitty sometimes. He tries so hard. He comes across as like your crazy friend that thinks he's funny, but he's not. And he's just like a little wacky.
There's some hits and misses.
Don't look at me, buddy.
I'm not looking at you. Go ahead, Vinny.
How dare you? That's why I'm here.
Curt Hennig comes out to join the announcers.
Rap is crap is born right here.
Yep.
This was amazing.
First, he can't figure out how the headphones work. He spent like a minute trying to get them plugged in or whatever. Then he talks about how great... Curt Hennig's sitting backstage at a wrestling show. He says, I hate rap music so badly. I will go down to ringside, I will join the announcers, and we'll talk about how country music is great, and rhythm and blues music is great, but rap sucks.
Yeah. He's got nothing fucking else to do.
That's true. So he talks about a bunch of great guys, great country singers in the 70s and 80s. Says he can sing and dance as well as anyone else. I hope we get to see that. I guess we did hear him sing.
We do get to see that.
Yeah. So this is all to set up a video.
Oh my God.
WCW did some, I don't know. They did some kind of thing with Tommy Boy Records.
Yes, they had something.
They're going to merge wrestling and music
For the first time.
together.
For the first time
First
ever.
time ever, yeah.
There was never a rock and wrestling connection back
Well,
in
there
the
was
day.
never a rap and wrestling connection.
Yeah.
So they weren't wrong.
Yeah.
All I wrote is, what in the fuck is this fucking show?
And why did they send Raven, of all people, to this party?
Well, he's a music
There's a reason.
connoisseur.
Raven's the one guy.
Okay.
They were doing it was like a concert and a bunch of interviews and a few wrestling matches. They're like Booker T beating up some local indie geek.
Sure.
But Raven's sitting on the apron. He says, "Well, I'm more of a rap fan, but you know the history of Time Boy. You go back to like Africa Bambaataa. That was the bomb."
that is what he said. I laughed.
So that happened. Sarge versus Chris Benoit.
So in the interview earlier with Malenko's all disgruntled, and he's doing a work shoot deal. So like half of it's real, half of it's fake, and so he goes, "Chris, I'll try and be monotone. Chris, go out there tonight with Sarge, 8 to 10 minutes. Brother, take as long as you want."
Yeah, what's happened?
Like he's a road agent.
Yeah,
8 to 10 minutes. Take as long
But
as
he's
you
a
want.
road agent who's giving him instructions to shoot on the guy and kick his ass.
I guess.
Well, Benoit took one look at this guy and said, "Fuck that, 2 minutes tops." That's what we got.
Yeah, it was, and it was not a good 2 minutes, by the way.
No.
Imagine how bad you have to be to have a boring match with Chris Benoit.
Hey, think about this. Chris Benoit had a boring match with the guy who ran their training facility.
Yes.
I did make note of that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So
Well, he did turn out Goldberg, so.
we often watch all shows we watch in the 90s. They often get morbid and depressing when the body count racks up here in 2018. So Curt Hennig's on commentary. He notes Benoit is wearing a black armband for Owen Hart. He talks about he's talking about Owen and Benoit. Then he says, "quote the Rick Rude thing going down," which
Yeah.
was his reference to his good friend Rick Rude passing away 1 month earlier.
Yes.
And like just Benoit, Owen, Rude, Hennig, just this morbid bomb just hit me. Like I wasn't having a good mood anyway, but now I was really, really depressed. So they had a boring match. Benoit won with the headbutt and crossface. Steiner's come out for a promo. Scott says he's there to find a freak, and they are the greatest tag team that ever lived. Fact. That is true.
It's a Rock and Roll Express, Vinny.
Second best tag team that ever lived. So now he says Rick's with him in the NWO, but they are bad guys. Even though Hogan and Nash are in the NWO, and they are good guys. I guess. Rick threatens to break Bagwell's neck again. We get Buff Bagwell versus Rick Steiner. They're doing this match.
Before I get to that, I just got one other thing I got to say about the interview. This was another one of those interviews where Scott Steiner is like he has great crazy man delivery, But I believe that Rick is the actual crazy one.
Yeah, you said this last week.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's more apparent than ever here. I was like, Scott's good at what he does, but I don't want to match with Rick.
Do you remember when the World's Greatest Tag Team, they were out for a long time, and they came back in Ring of Honor, and Shelton Benjamin was always scary. He watched Charlie Haas, and he thinks, that is a maniac.
Yeah.
Shelton would pin me. Charlie would tear my arms off.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I got out of this.
Same thing with the Steiners.
I just wanted to add one thing with this, with Scott's promo. He was burying WCW and ended it by saying, WCW sucks. And Heenan says, good point.
So Rick Steiner versus Buff Bagwell, a year and a half or whatever after Buff broke his neck against Rick and nearly died. And they're wrestling. And with that real and storyline injury playing into this, Rick Steiner gives Buff Bagwell a pile driver on the cement. Mm-hmm. Buff needs to not wrestle for the rest of 1999 selling this. It's insane. So they put Buff in the apron, and Scott's holding his neck, and Rick goes to the top rope when an engine revs, and apparently engines revving in WCW are disqualifications.
Well, there was a monster truck driving down the fucking aisle. I mean, we got to throw this match out.
Didn't Steve Austin... Austin did this a couple weeks ago, but he got to the edge of the aisle and stopped.
Yeah.
This monster truck drives down the wrestling aisle.
Right.
Yes.
Very narrow margins of error here.
No, Austin did the exact same thing. He went down the fucking aisle.
So...
In fact, he hit the ring once.
The monster truck?
Not the monster truck, but the big beer truck.
That's true. That is true. That's true. So, the monster truck parks. Sting is allegedly driving this. We're told this. We can't see. And then a guy leans his head out the window. He's clearly wearing a Sting mask. And they say, look, there's Sting. And I think, okay, so that's the professional monster truck driver they have hired.
No.
To safely drive a monster truck down the aisle. And then he takes the mask off. It's Lex Luger.
Yes.
Now, in storyline, why do they do that?
Well,
Lex says,
because they wanted to surprise you.
I'm going to disguise myself as Sting, then hide in Sting's monster truck.
And then Sting can sneak in.
And Sneak will Sting.
Sure.
So Sting is in the ring for at least 2 minutes before the cameras pick up on it, which means the announcers don't pick up.
Well, he snuck in from the crowd.
Anyway, the Steiners just leave. This was really, really fucking weird. Conan comes out and attacks Hennig. They brawl to the back. Jimmy Hart and Hugh Morris come back out.
Mike Tenay is going to interview them, and his question is, and I quote, and I fucking quote, what the heck's going on here?
They call out Ray Jr. Ray comes out. They may as well have had a match. They brawled for several minutes. And they put a chair on... They kill Ray.
Yeah, Ray comes out to challenge... Okay, so Hugh Morris is sick of the same guys having the same matches for the past 4 years. That's what he says.
Yeah.
I want something different. I want Ray. Ray sprints down to the ring like a hero, gets his ass completely handed to them by this big guy.
Yeah. So they put a chair around his neck. Gonna moonsault him and kill him. Conan runs out to beg for mercy.
Is this over yet? How long is this fucking show?
Couple more matches.
Conan's out there to talk. Kidman runs out and attack Hugh. They triple team Hugh Morris. And Kidman hits him with a shooting star press. That was, to be fair, the biggest pop in the entire show. Hogan comes out for a promo. First promo since his knee surgery. He thanks Nash for getting the world title back in the Wolfpack. Says he's been at home watching wrestling. He was watching the Triple X porno wrestling on the other stations, he says.
What channel was that on?
I think those were his apartment wrestling tapes.
But he didn't like what was going on in WCW either, he says. He explains...
We're on the same page.
He explains...
Smart man.
He is the master behind the curtain, the master of politics, the master of the stroke.
Wait a minute. What?
Maybe that's what he was doing, watching the Triple X porno
Sure.
wrestling. Yeah. So...
I thought he was just stealing Jarrett's gimmick while he was at it.
I don't know. But this is... Okay, you've got Benoit Malenko saying we're tired of not getting pushed. You got Hugh Morris talking about how he's tired of the same matches every week. You have Hogan coming here saying, I'm the master behind the curtain. You don't see how Goldberg and Piper act backstage, he says. Well, no, we don't, because it's not part of the show, so fuck off. That's it. I got nothing else out of this. Fuck him.
He says he's going to come back and turn things around, just like Eric.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Nash comes out for a promo. He brags about being champion. Savage's music hit. The women come out again. Gorgeous George was fine earlier. Now she's on crutches.
Yeah.
Still in heels.
Nobody notices.
So Nash has a line where he says he likes watching Medusa wrestle, but he'd rather see her box. So they attack him, they low blow him, Savage appears, lays out Nash with a belt shot, and they put lipstick on Nash's face. The crowd is chanting for Goldberg, and they go to commercial. And I think, man, that's a weird main event. And I saw there's like 15 minutes left to go.
Yeah, that's not the main event, buddy. We got a real main event here.
I don't know about that.
Rowdy Roddy Piper has claimed that he will get two men to face Ric Flair, DDP, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Who could the two men possibly be? Well, it turns out it is Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko, who are upset with Ric Flair because he won't give them a push. Well, you know what? At least that made sense in storyline.
What didn't make sense is why was Malenko out here in a dress shirt?
Because he's shooting, dude.
The storyline is Dean is so disinterested in WCW, he won't even dress for work anymore.
Yes.
You can only shoot in slacks.
Yes, Craig. You know this.
He's not shooting in the sense I'm going to take you down and apply a legit submission hold and tap you out.
Understood.
He's shooting in the sense of fuck this place. Working here sucks. I don't care anymore. So Flair was happy at first, then confused. They did I guess you'd call it a stare down, but they did nothing for like 2.5 minutes. Everyone just looks at each other. So finally they begin to wrestle. If you took Chris Benoit, Ric Flair, Dallas Page, and Bam Bam Bigelow and had them recreate the first minute of this match 1 million times, it would be better 1 million times. They fucked up everything.
It's kind of funny because I wrote Benoit and Flair were really great together.
The spot where all four guys were involved.
Well,
Go
yeah.
back and watch that part. So eventually there's a heat on Benoit. Piper gets a hot tag. Raven and Saturn attack for the DQ. Everyone brawls for a while and they cut backstage, and Page, who was in the match, is now backstage, and Hogan's laid him out with a chair.
Yeah, they do the DQ and Raven and Saturn run in. There's a brawl. They're setting up matches for the pay-per-view. Flair and Piper are brawling. Benoit's down there. They double-team Flair. They celebrate together. And then, like, Vinny didn't even do it justice. There's, I swear to God, 3 seconds left of television. Not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds, not 30 seconds. And in the final 3 seconds, all of a sudden you just see Hulk Hogan, and he's laid out
Page.
DDP. Yeah. And he says, "You got what you had coming, bro." And they cut away.
Yep.
That's right.
I didn't even hear the brother.
Nope.
What happened.
I've seen worse main events.
I've seen worse Nitros. This was better than last week's show.
Yeah, this was better than last week's show.
God, it sucked.
It's so horrible. What is it, May? June, July,
Yeah.
August, September. 5 months till Russo shows up.
Oof.
And then at least it will be entertainingly awful, I think. Right now, it's
Write
just,
that down, everyone.
It's just awful.
Brian is now looking forward to Vince Russo booking Nitro.
I remember like the first maybe 3 months of Russo booking was actually somewhat entertaining.
You're misremembering, Craig.
Okay.
Just trust me.
It won't be good.
It was like a good first week.
There's not a chance in hell it lasts 3 months.
I think there was a good first and second week because everything was just changing everything around. The show's so fucking boring.
Yeah.
But then November is that fucking World Championship tournament with like 95 guys and Medusa, where Medusa gets eliminated and just randomly put back in, and that's a highlight. At least it's quick moving. We're less than an hour away from 2 hours.
Woo!
Let's look forward to that.
Wait, say that again.
Within 1 year,
Okay.
Nitro goes back to 2 hours in an attempt to boost the ratings, which actually failed. Which is mathematically impossible, but they did it. I mean, okay, so just think about this, everybody, okay? Let's say that you've got a 5, a 4,
Math is fun.
and a 3.
With you so far.
Okay, so what does that add up to?
12.
Okay, you have a 5, a 4, and a 3.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the average?
4.
Okay, 4.
Yeah.
All right, so they figured if you got a 5 and a 4 and a 3, and we get rid of the 3, the 5 and the 4 will average to 4.5.
Yes. He's right.
That didn't happen!
No.
How?
They're WCW.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, you can look forward to that, everybody.
Brian, cue Vinny's music.
Oh, shit.
Oh, I forgot. I closed my notes and
Goddamn,
everything.
I forgot too. How about that?
Well, to be honest, they're short.
All right, well, let's play this one here. How about that?
The finishes on this show were clean pin, submission that may or may not have been rigged, no finish in a battle royal to determine a top contender to the Cruiserweight title, clean submission.
No, champion won number one contenders match for his own title.
Or whatever. DQ due to monster truck. DQ due to run-in. And that's it. Those are all the finishes in 3 hours.
God damn, how many matches? 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh.
6 matches in 3 hours. 2 clean finishes in 3 hours of wrestling.
They were all right. I didn't hate him as much as usual. Maybe I'm just done.
I had that thought too.
Yeah, or maybe they were better.
Especially on Nitro, I had that thought that like this seems like a bad show, but I just don't have the energy to hate it anymore.
It wasn't that bad though.
Last part sucked.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the last part always sucks.
I guess
so. If there was a little bit of good stuff on Nitro, then it was a huge improvement over. Like last week, we thought it was one of the worst shows we'd ever seen. So, like, how could this be worse?
It wasn't.
It wasn't. It was better.
You are right. It was the best Nitro in a while.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it.
And Raw actually had good wrestling.
Raw had a lot of good wrestling.
Yeah.
WCW Monday Nitro number 193, May 31st, 1999. Bam Bam Bigelow and Dallas Page attacked Raven in a parking lot. Hundreds of fans jumping and shouting all over the place, and security helping them back, but not, breaking up the fight. And they threw him into a dumpster and slammed the big plastic lid onto his head.
I guess he's going to be out for a while.
Apparently.
I don't know why. Rehab? What's going on with Raven?
Maybe he's hurt.
Where's he going?
It may also be they just wanted him out of action for the angle tonight.
That could have been.
Yeah, he'll be back next week. As I wrote here, a recap of all the crap that happened last week.
All right, so
I'm not writing it down a second time.
I wrote down a lot of it. Tank Abbott has shown up.
Yeah.
We had Tenay referring to the Ultimate Fight Championships repeatedly.
Tank Abbott from the Ultimate Fight.
Yeah, and this is Mike Tenay, who usually does not make mistakes. That's a big one. This was not 1993. This was 1999. They've been around for 6 years. He didn't know the name of the Ultimate Fighting Championships.
Just say UFC.
We had Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott getting into a brawl. We had Randy Savage doing a promo. We had a bunch of matches, which I did not bother writing down. But it did, in fact, seem like I missed a year of television. And we didn't. We missed Thunder.
Yeah.
We didn't even miss a Nitro.
No. Yeah. And the announcers could not stop talking about Tank. So Eddie Guerrero comes out. His first appearance since his car wreck.
Now, before that, they announced it tonight on the show. In a random cage match. It is Sting versus Rick Steiner. For whatever belt Rick Steiner has. I've already forgotten.
Well, it wasn't random because Tank Abbott was there.
Why is this match taking place and why is it in a cage?
I guess to ensure that Sting and his monster truck don't show up again.
Huh.
Only it wasn't Sting, it was Lex in a Sting mask. I have no idea. Oh, let's see. Eddie Guerrero comes out. His first appearance in his big car wreck. He is nervous. Mm-hmm. He is incredibly humble. It's a fine trait in a human being, poor in a pro wrestler. He talks about the injury he suffered to his liver and his ankle and other things.
And other things. You didn't write this down?
Clearly I didn't.
They show footage from the accident. Eddie's talking about his injuries. A lacerated liver was one of them. Mm-hmm. And another one was a broken head socket.
That sounds bad. Are you sure you didn't say hip?
He may have, but I'm pretty sure he said a broken head socket.
It was hip.
I would like to think.
I don't know.
Socket.
I think he had a broken head socket.
I don't think
that sounds serious.
It's the part where your head screws on.
There's only one socket your head goes in.
Dude, and he broke it. Tilt your mic up, Craig.
Hang on. Are we certain he just said the part where your head screws on?
No, I said that.
With this signal?
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever unscrewed a head?
Can't say that.
Well, what the fuck do you know then?
He's got you there, Vince.
I don't even know what to say.
Prove to me that you don't screw your head on.
I don't.
Well, I know you don't. Have you ever heard the term?
Yes.
He's got his head screwed on straight.
I guess I have.
My dad told me the opposite, but yes.
So
Exactly.
You're saying it's literally true.
Yeah, you screw it on.
When we are born, we come out, the baby comes out, and then the baby's head comes out, and the doctor puts the two together.
Well, no, I can confirm that didn't happen.
Okay.
But I mean, if the head hadn't come out,
If they turn yours the other way, can you get taller?
yeah, maybe I could, Craig.
Okay.
Maybe your head gets screwed on a little tighter the older you get, so that's why you get shorter as you get older. You'd know about that. All right, where were we?
This is all so much more entertaining than Eddie Guerrero was.
Hey, you know what, though? When Eddie Guerrero first came out, he was being all humble.
Sure.
Fine. He just came back from an injury. He's happy to be alive. But then he's got to, get out of this funk. He never did.
Not on the show.
He remained quiet, humble Edward Guerrero.
So let me just recap quickly what's happened. There was a lot of video packages. Eddie came out and said his piece, and then Tony Schiavone does this. What's happening? We're going to the ring? Let's go to the ring! They couldn't get one segment in before there was a fuck-up.
Well, yeah.
Jesus.
Hey, at least we went to the ring. At least we had
Boy,
a wrestling
did
match.
we.
Hey, Hack and Kidman.
Yeah.
Okay?
The Sandman and William Kidman.
At least it was something that you were like, what?
Yeah.
As opposed to,
Okay.
what the fuck? You know what I mean?
I actually do, is the sad
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
I could not believe my eyes. Hack comes out first. So I'm waiting for Knobs.
No.
Or Bam
Hammer.
Bam, Hammer, one of these other...
Like, I couldn't believe they didn't open with Evan Courageous and Hammer.
Yeah.
They actually
That's-
gave us something that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Sure.
Out comes Billy Kidman. So Eddie's, I can't say going off, but he's speaking about how he's glad he knows how to wrestle and doesn't have to do this hardcore shit. And then for a while, they didn't do any hardcore shit. I got to see Billy Kidman and the Sandman treating hammerlocks and headlocks and, the drop toe hold.
Yeah.
When Hack runs across the ring and Kidman goes down and trips him, and Hack goes, thunk. 3 steps. That's how it went down.
Well, Vinny, I don't think this ended in a DQ.
It sure did.
Okay, so it couldn't have been that hardcore a match.
Sure.
So I was baffled when in the middle of this wrestling match, Hack starts throwing a bunch of plunder into the ring. He throws in chairs. He throws in tables. They start doing
Doors.
a hardcore match. Yeah. So I thought, you know what? Maybe this is one of those hardcore matches where they start out doing wrestling, but then they bring in the plunder. Well, I'm thinking that, and all of a sudden, Hugh Morris runs in for the disqualification. Why was all this plunder allowed?
Don't know.
Why were they allowed to hit each other with a bunch of shit in the middle of this match?
Don't
And then
know.
there's a DQ for a guy running in?
I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
So, yeah, Hugh Morris attacked Kidman.
Can they do anything right?
No. Brian Knobs arrives with a trash can, starts whacking on Hack, and Eddie says, "This is wild."
I like where earlier he said, maybe I should stay retired.
I felt very guilty about waking Eddie up from his nap here. Did we mention Tank and his crew coming out in the middle of this match and announcing that he was going to referee the Rick Steiner Sting cage match?
Oh, yeah, he just came out and started talking to the announcers. He said he was going to bring hell with him if they didn't let him ref. I'm like, you're just a dude. What do you mean you're going to ref the main event on Nitro? What are you talking about? And then he did.
So Ric Flair's on the phone.
Now, before you get to that, I have a sad fact that I would like to reveal to the world here.
Uh-oh.
Okay? It was Hack versus Kidman. There was a run-in by Hugh Morris. There was a run-in by Brian Knobs. And Tank Abbott was out there doing an interview. Every single person is alive except Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
When you look at the guys who were in the ring,
Yeah.
that's astounding.
There's hard living that they've survived. So Flair's on the phone, orders some limousines to take 8 women to his hotel room. Confirms with J.J. Dillon that Randy Savage's top rope elbow is now illegal.
Yeah, it's been banned.
Randy Savage's top rope elbow is now an illegal wrestling move.
He can never use it again.
No, and Flair is sure to insist, I banned it over and over again. It's done.
Well, to be fair to them, he is out of his mind. And they did make it clear in this segment that Flair was gonna ban it on the show tonight.
And then he did.
I never saw him come out and ban it.
I thought I banned it right here.
No, JJ was talking about later.
It only counts if you do it in the ring?
Like Flair's going, well, what segment? And JJ goes, any segment you want. Never happened.
Okay.
So maybe technically it has not been banned yet. Although it was banned last week on the show.
They recapped the Rick Steiner Tank Abbott brawl from Thunder, including Gene telling Tank that Rick Steiner and Sting would be having, quote, a shoot cage match.
That's what he said.
Yeah, well, it's a shoot cage.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
All I can think
It's not one of those bullshit blue bar cages.
Yeah.
This is a shoot cage.
By the way, Rick Steiner clobbered this guy a couple times.
Tank?
Yeah. And
When this happened, I remember this vividly 2 decades ago. Brian noted Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott in a real fight would be awesome.
yes.
Yeah.
That is still true.
I'd love to see that fight.
But instead we get Rick Steiner.
We
and Sting.
almost saw Tank Abbott Scott Steiner.
Oh.
They had something very resembling a real fight later on.
Yeah.
It was awesome, if I recall correctly.
So Eddie thanks WCW and Eric Bischoff, and when he mentions Eric's name, Heenan and Schiavone look at each other like, I can't believe he's thanking Eric. Thanks WCW and Eric for keeping him employed, and he leaves. I believe that they put him out there thinking he'd be out there for a while and realized how bad he was and ordered him to the back immediately.
He got the hook.
He may have.
So you're telling me, Vinny, that you believe that WCW realized that something was not good
And cancel
and
it.
stopped doing it?
I understand why you're
Fuck you.
skeptical of this.
Come on, get out of here. You kidding me?
Well, the show was improved when Eddie left.
Fucking Hoovy ends up doing commentary for years.
That was better than this. Miles.
But it was a different kind of horrible.
Sure. Paige and Bam Bam come out for a promo. Paige promises to take out Hulk Hogan permanently next time. They call out Raven and Saturn, and that's it.
They won a World Tag Team title match tonight here on this show.
So, Saturn and Canyon arrived together hours after Raven arrived alone and was beaten.
Right.
Mike Tenay, who, as Canyon noted, is a stooge, says that Paige and Bigelow beat up Raven and sent him to the hospital. So Saturn and Canyon, being normal humans, say, let's go check on our buddy. But then Gene says, wait, they've also challenged you for the tag team titles. And Canyon says, we accept.
Vinny, you're glossing over how awesome this angle is right here. So at the beginning of the show, we have DDP and Bigelow beating up Raven and hitting him with a garbage can lid. Okay? So when Canyon and Saturn arrive, Mike Tenay says, you're never going to believe what happened to Raven.
Right.
He explains it. Saturn says, I told you, Canyon, that we should have gotten here earlier.
Aha.
Canyon says, how was I supposed to know? So then, Tenay notes that they won a tag title match against them tonight, and Canyon goes, you've got it, immediately.
Without checking with Saturn. Without,
This plot is unfolding.
That's
It
some good
is a rare, great storyline in the middle of this shit show.
That's some good sleuth in there, Brian.
Yes.
the announcers talked about nothing for like a minute, and then Curt Hennig comes out. He says,
Well, I mean, they acknowledged DJ Ran.
Yeah.
did. Kurt, Hennig
He's
says,
there.
Rap is crap. He's sick of Conan. He's sick of Ray Jr. Goes to confront DJ Ran in the crowd. Bobby Duncombe Jr. is there now, too. So there are two guys talking about how great country music is, wearing cowboy hats, in the Houston Astrodome.
Thank you.
Of course they got cheered. You give DJ Randy kind of 3 to leave, and then as soon as they start to count, the director cuts away. It should not be that hard. It really shouldn't. Hennig starts to sing a song. Out come Conan and Ray Jr. in Astros t-shirts to make sure they're not booed. They jibber-jabbered for a while. They started pushing and shoving. Security separated them. This sucked and was stupid, I wrote.
They sang a song about Texas.
Dude,
in Texas.
This segment was awesome compared to some of the shit on this show.
You're right.
Like the very next match.
Van Hammer versus Evan Courageous.
You know what this was, Vinny?
Terrible.
You know what this was? This was you versus Stoney Edwards. Just a...
Which one am I?
You're Evan Courageous,
Okay.
a green-ass dude who, like, is put in the ring with somebody who's supposed to be the veteran, but is no goddamn good.
Okay.
And I
Stoney
mean that
was-
the nicest way possible to Stoney.
Stoney was green for all different kinds of reasons.
No, yeah, good call.
This match is horrible.
It's very, very
Evan
bad.
was so green. Hammer fucking sucked. But it's his job to lead this dance.
Yeah.
They can't do a fucking thing.
When this match got in the ring, I said, I'm going to be Mr. Brightside. and
Why?
Write down all the good stuff that happened in this match. Here's my list.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you what your list was.
Okay.
Okay. Your list consists entirely of the words delayed middle rope superplex. And that's it.
Actually, it was Evan Courageous throws a pretty good drop kick.
That's what you got out of this?
That's what I got out of this.
Okay, so two things. Yes, Rob.
Wasn't it last week or the week before that they had Evan Courageous against Rey Mysterio?
Yes.
Which he
Yes.
fucked that up royally as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
And so obviously after watching that, somebody thought it would be a great idea to throw him in with Van Hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah. They decided he needed a real worker. Anyway, there was one delayed middle rope superplex. It was actually pretty good by Hammer. The rest of this was shit.
Van Hammer, to further put off his hippie gimmick, has wrote the word peace on his singlet and then circled and X'd it out.
No peace.
He's all about war.
Anti-peace. All I know is
What?
that's what he did.
That's what he did. That's
Don't
what
get mad at Craig.
That's what the
I'm not mad at Craig. I'm just wondering why you would have a hippie gimmick but be pro-war.
Well, he's not a hippie gimmick anymore. He's
Right.
whatever the hell. Van
Oh,
Hammer
that's
is.
right. He got his makeover last week.
He was in the
Right.
flock for a while.
I
He was a
see.
hippie, and now he's whatever Van Hammer
This
is.
piece shit wasn't working out for Hammer, so now he's going to embrace war.
Apparently.
I guess.
Cool.
All I can add to this is
Start
that
stuff, Rob.
imagine the talent it takes to get in there with a guy half your size and beat the hell out of him and come out of it less over than you were going in.
Right.
This was not a success. Mean Gene brings Roddy Piper out for a promo.
Oh, my God. Everybody that wanted the cruiserweights to be pushed. Dean's just killing it for everybody here. Holy fuck.
So Roddy gives a nice, sincere, actually, message for Memorial Day. Then it gets back into the work mode. Says, Ric Flair is not a horseman, he's a gelding. And Dean Malenko is tired of being tied up in a stall. So Malenko comes out. And as he's coming out, Heenan says, these horsemen, since last week when Malenko and Benoit wrestled Flair, they've just been trading angry phone calls and emails and faxes. And when I thought about Ric Flair sitting down to write, type, or perhaps dictate an angry fax
Sure.
and send it to Dean Malenko, and the fact that Heenan wasn't joking and it made sense, that tells you all you need to know about how much the Horsemen sucked on Nitro. Can you imagine Tully Blanchard sending an angry fax? No. He'd insult you, take your own, and destroy your car. So Piper tries to interview Dean. Dean won't speak. I was going to flip my lid. I was going to lose it at Dean coming out for an interview and then not speaking. And then finally he starts to talk. He says,
You were better off when he was a mute. Holy fuck, this promo.
We didn't walk away from Flair. Flair walked away from us. Flair and Arn come out. And Piper says, no, you will listen to what Dean has to say. And Dean says this is not about Rolex watches or fancy cars.
Flair's checking his Rolex as he's talking.
It's about passing the torch.
Is this fucking promo over yet?
Passing the torch.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear about.
Yeah.
Flair says you can't handle the torch. Dean pleads his case to Arn. Were the Four Horsemen ever good on Nitro? Going all the way back to Pillman and Benoit back in the day, was there ever a good segment with the Four Horsemen on Monday Nitro?
Oh, yeah, they've been good segments, yeah. But
I don't remember them.
This was not one of them.
I remember them all bickering about who...
Well, Flair's return in
like
Greensboro
Page.
and,
That's one. Okay, you got me there.
We always said, like, Dean Malenko's a robot. Somebody didn't program his promo skills. Somebody forgot that.
I think he was better than Eddie.
Tonight,
Okay.
Tonight. No, tonight.
not usually.
Let me clarify that. On
Yeah.
this specific
Eddie
instance.
Eddie was in such a depression here
Yeah.
that Malenko was better by default.
Yes.
Eddie was coming off an accident.
That's also true. So Dean says he was not going to watch Arn's back. He walks out. Arn follows. Flair and Piper brawl. There's finally some action. People are finally into this. They keep fighting. It's funny. Flair leaves. He gets his ass kicked and leaves. And he notices there's 3 hot women in the crowd.
Yes.
And so they go back over to fight right in front of them some more so Flair can check them out.
Chop me.
See, the problem with all of this stuff in real life is that, the Benoits and the Malenkos, they're just doing the same shit over and over on the show. They're bored. They want to go to Raw. And, Malenko and Benoit had maybe one good match as a team. They just went out there every week and just went through the motions, and it was boring.
Yep.
Benoit can't cut a promo. Dean Malenko can't cut a promo. Meanwhile, Ric Flair just fucking blows everybody away on the mic.
Yeah.
Yep.
He comes out here and brawls with fucking 90-year-old Roddy Piper. They have a great brawl. And like as a viewer, we're supposed to think, you know, I want this Ric Flair guy out of the main event, and just have Dean Malenko in there as our world champion.
It does not work that way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, God, I was just watching this go, and this is doing way more harm than good. Malenko's out there. Man, the year 2000 is coming. The only way to get to the year 2000 is to think about the future and not the past. I'm like, dude, give me more of the past.
Past is better.
Not this bullshit interview.
Not to mention, if this was a real sport, wouldn't you
Win!
Yeah. If you want the torch passed to you, beat guys and take it.
Yeah, it's like this shit they're doing on Raw with Roman Reigns. I'm being screwed because I'm not the champion right now. Even though you keep having matches and Brock keeps beating the shit out of you and pinning you.
Yes.
And now we're supposed to believe that you're getting screwed by me. This is bullshit.
Rey Mysterio Jr. and Conan versus Curt Hennig and Bobby Duncum.
This was good. You know what this was? Yeah. This was Dusty Rhodes in a tag team.
Kinda, yeah.
Because Conan cannot do a long singles match.
Well, he gets
blown up, and he just can't do a goddamn thing. So here, Ray gets in there, and they get the heat on Ray, and then they give the hot tag to Conan. All he has to do is his comeback.
Yeah.
And he's been standing on the apron for 10 minutes, so this fucking guy gets the hot tag, and he is sprinting. I've never seen Conan move so fast. Place is fucking going out of their mind because all they wanted was wrestling.
Yes.
Do you understand? I say this every week, but it's Conan and Ray versus Hennig and Bobby Duncum Jr. They just want to see some fucking wrestling. He goes crazy, and then Duncan, it's a bell shot for the DQ, which, you know what, was fine.
Yes.
Because this is the beginning of something.
Yes, this is a key. Because I from the get-go, as soon as that DQ is called for, it's clear this is going to be the start of a long-term thing. Usually, when we bitch about DQs, it's because there's a random match where it doesn't matter who wins, but they still do a DQ, and it leads to nothing anyway. This DQ will set up Chapter 2 next week.
Yes.
Great. That's all they want.
This is where I noticed that in the massive Houston Astrodome, there were a lot of empty chairs.
Well, yeah.
Lots. And
Well, yeah,
lots.
but they still sold 12,000 tickets, which is more than Raw did. But still, in that building, not very good.
No, I'm sure they booked the building when they were drawing a lot better, and the audiences decreased over the last 3 months.
It's been a while.
So yes, Brian said this, but I'm going to echo it. Ray and Conan are a great team because Ray is awesome doing anything, and being the hot tag guy emphasizes all of Conan's strengths and hides all his weaknesses.
Yeah.
So, great.
There you
go. Savage comes out for a promo. He says he had...
Bischoff is now on commentary.
Yes.
It's very important.
Bischoff is now on commentary, and he's talking right over Savage's promo with his own jokes, and I hated him immediately. Like he was worse being a quote-unquote babyface announcer here and more annoying than he was as NWO President Eric Bischoff on commentary for months.
I don't like when guys talk over guys talking in the ring, but I will say that when Savage is doing his promo, where he's making gay jokes about Kevin Nash, very cutting-edge promo, Medusa runs down to the ring.
Oh, boy, did she.
And, there's...
Needed more tape.
Dude,
Black
not
eye.
just tape, but anyway.
Black eyes and bruised knees. That's all I
Eric
say.
Bischoff just says, easy there, Medusa.
That was awesome.
It was perfect timing.
Yes, it was.
There's nothing else you can even say.
Yeah.
What was she thinking?
I don't know, especially because she changed outfits later in the show.
I guess she was thinking it was the Attitude Era.
Yeah. So she says something to Nash, and
she says, and I quote,
"Oh yeah,
Big Sexy is here."
Yeah.
Not Kevin Nash.
Right.
Not Nash.
Big
Their
Sexy.
hated enemy.
Yeah.
Big Sexy is here.
I'm sure Nash gave her that line.
So Savage is happy to hear this. He calls out Nash, and then they leave. So what I wrote here in this first part is technically true about what happened next. What is technically true is Kenyon was laid out backstage, and Paige and Bigelow were tending to him.
Sure.
Now, they were doing a poor job of this. They were half-assing it. Their heart wasn't all the way in it. They were like, might be alive.
Yeah,
And
what are you
damn,
going to
he's
do?
I don't know.
down.
Yeah.
Shit.
What are you going to do?
Well, they'd beaten him up.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it was funny.
Yeah.
So they walked out. But playing into the bigger part, we assume they beat him up.
Yeah, we never
There
saw
are no
them.
witnesses to this beating.
Yeah, they just presumed a cameraman was going to come by and they could make some jokes.
And a fan holding up an Owen Hart sign. This is, of course, 8 days after Owen died. And the announcers acknowledged the sign, and Bischoff wished the best to Brett and the rest of the family. Eric Watts versus David Flair.
Oh, my God. Well, first off, Tori's outfit.
Oh, my.
Yes.
Better than last week.
Yes.
Yes.
Didn't think that was possible.
This show is a historically great show, purely for Tori Wilson and the all-white bell-bottom catsuit she was wearing.
Yeah.
This was amazing. Did you catch in here, by the way, when the storyline is David Flair sucks? And that is the word they used.
Right.
This guy sucks.
Absolutely sucks.
Did you catch when Bischoff said, I'm sure he's a nice guy? Like,
Been hearing that a lot lately.
twice in 2 weeks that's come up.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm sure he is a nice guy, but he does fucking suck.
He's
And you know
horrible.
what's amazing about it? They're having a horrible match. It's fucking death TV. It's Eric Watts. Okay, this is
If you thought Van Hammer was a lousy veteran to carry a guy through a match.
the irony of Eric Watts versus David Flair. And they're even pointing that out on commentary.
Well, I'll take it a step further. They're critiquing Eric Watts. Bischoff is talking about the bad old days, the reign of terror of Bill Watts, who pushed Eric Watts to the moon.
Yep.
And the storyline is now Flair's doing the same thing with David. And then Eric mentions, I got a son named Garrett who'd probably be a pretty good wrestler. I thought, oh my God. This is
It
what
happened.
Yes.
Aces and eights, baby.
They started it here.
Anyway, so they're having this terrible match. Bischoff is burying David. He says he sucks. He needs to train. He needs to work out. He shouldn't be in the ring. And he's in the ring.
Right.
Okay. So, listen, everybody. The idea that the son of the promoter sucks, but he gets pushed down everybody's throat on television, is a story as old as time.
Absolutely.
Everybody hates it, and it sucks. So they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The storyline is we are presenting you with a shitty storyline.
We are designing something that everybody hates. Mm-hmm. I guess for heat. I don't know what the fucking payoff is.
No. Keep in mind, Bischoff for weeks now has been telling us he's going to turn this company around by putting on a storyline that in storyline sucks.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like a great example, but this is the best example.
You will never find another parallel in
There's nothing better than this. They are making a storyline about how the guy in charge's son sucks, and he's in there having matches, and he actually sucks. It's not like you're pretending he sucks, but he's actually good. You know what I mean? He totally, fucking sucks.
I like when Eric is ramming David's head into the turnbuckle, and David's arms are at his sides, his face is blank. You know those birds that you put on the desktop, they kind of go like this, back and forth? That's David going in the turnbuckle. Bending at the waist, like this, over and over again. It's poor. It is poorly done pro wrestling.
The comedy is you have one of the greatest wrestlers in the entire world, and his kid is in the ring.
Yeah, put Flair in. Again, I don't want Flair to pass the torch.
He's so bad. What do you think happens when they go back through the curtain?
That's a fine question.
Hey, all I know is this. Arn hits the ring, gives Eric the spine buster, David gets the pin. They've dropped the taking a dive storyline.
Okay.
That's one positive.
Sure.
Okay? That's all. That is Captain Glass half full here. That's all I could get out of this.
I also like Eric Bischoff, who suddenly is Mr. Continuity Editor, who has to make references to Arn and Eric having a brawl at a gas station a decade ago. Because they did. I'll be honest, I was expecting worse than we got out of this match. This was not the worst match I ever saw. Buff is meeting with Flair backstage. He wants a match.
This was awesome.
He wants a match with Macho Randy Savage.
Yes.
Flair says, listen, Buff, I like you. But you're not in Macho's
You seem
league.
like a nice guy.
You seem like you did say here, yeah. You're not in Macho's league. And if you go out there and get murdered, I'll look bad. So he offers a match against Bobby Eaton instead. Buff is stunned to learn Bobby Eaton still works for the company.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Flair's like everybody does.
Everyone's on the payroll.
He complained about working with Bobby Eaton.
It's Buff Bagwell. He probably did complain about working with Bobby Eaton.
Well, this is Bobby Eaton.
It was not the Bobby Eaton of 1988.
No.
I don't think he'd worked in years, probably. And he was out of shape, and he got super tired.
Still had that punch, baby.
So Buff finally accepts the match, but he warns Eaton's going to get hurt. Ernest Miller comes out for a promo.
I'm done with this. I am just done with this. This is stupid.
So Cat is sick of Scott Norton running out in his matches. He calls out Norton. Norton obliges. Doing this match, Norton's beating the hell out of him. The other B-teamers are laughing their asses off backstage. Then Cat pulls out a crowbar, hits Norton, pins him. Things go silent in the B-teamers' locker room. They determine when Norton returns, he's going to be pissed, and they don't want to be there, and they all pack up and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, I was so angry when Shaq came out with his bullshit and Scott Norton started coming through the curtain. I'm like, dude, this is the fourth fucking time. But they actually did something different. Unfortunately, they're going to have to wrestle more. The feud now has just begun.
Savage came back out with his women this time. He demanded Nash appear, and Nash's pyro goes off, his music goes off, and out comes some guy dressed up like Nash in a dress and heels. And Savage makes about 8 different lines about how this guy's in the closet. So, Randy Savage versus...
Bischoff flat out called the guy a transvestite.
Yes.
Not mincing words.
Yes. I think I missed some of the finishes in the show. But anyway, the women do all the wrestling. Miss Madness, which is Molly Holly, does the top rope Rana. And Medusa's out there throwing kicks. And even Gorgeous George does the big elbow. And finally, Randy does the big elbow and wins in a move that I thought was banned. But
The outlawed flying elbow was the finish of this match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Technically, Vinny, it is a top rope diving Frankensteiner. I believe a
That's
hurricane run
true.
ends in a
She did not cradle him.
cradle.
There's
yes.
no roll up.
I apologize to Molly Holly for screwing up
Yes.
your move there.
Yes.
Buff Bagwell versus Bobby Eaton. Bischoff is going off on a rant about Jesse Ventura. Christ knows why. I don't know what was going on 19 years ago in Jesse's life, and I don't care. Bobby Eaton is out here taking backdrops on the floor in this match. Why?
Because he's Bobby Eaton, dude.
He did some stuff, and Buff hit the blockbuster for the win. This was pointless. Saturn comes out, says Raven and Canyon are in the hospital. I guarantee you can't beat me. I challenge you guys to a handicap match for the tag titles. So it's Saturn by himself versus Page and Bigelow. It goes way too long.
How long did they beat on Saturn?
How long did he beat on them? It was just
Well-
too long by the time they got the heat.
Yeah, but then they got the heat for like an hour.
They did.
They're just beating on this guy, beating on this guy, beating on this guy. Makes his comeback. It's a DVD. DDP doesn't kick out, but they call it a 2. It actually got a huge pop. I don't know what the hell went wrong there.
I think Bam Bam was supposed to break it up.
He's just standing outside.
Yeah.
Just chilling
I don't
out.
know. That's my guess. So he hits Bam Bam with a DVD, and then here comes Canyon. Running down the aisle, demanding to be tagged in. And Saturn crawls and dives and tags in Canyon, and Canyon's a house of fire, and Page punches him in the face and pins him. There's new tag team champions.
That quick.
Canyon's selling like death. The announcers, clueless, are saying Canyon never should have left this hospital.
But
He's
then,
clearly in no condition to fight.
but then Eric says, God, you know what he got on the apron, though? He looked great.
So, okay, you've kind of confirmed here. I've forgotten. It was obvious to everyone that Canyon was in on this, right?
I don't know if it was or not.
Time.
I don't know if it was at the time.
Okay.
It was abundant to me, and I didn't remember how the whole thing went down, but just watching the show, like, it was very easy for me to piece together. I don't know about everybody else.
So Savage and his women get into a limo. They're about to leave. A truck zooms in and blocks their path. And they had cameras in the limo. You can see all these giant vehicles zooming around backstage in the arena. So the first truck blocks their path, and then a septic truck zooms in out of nowhere and comes in alongside them and blocks them that
Yeah,
way.
I love the way they shot this. It was so fucking dumb.
Yep.
Well,
Like, they're in the car, and then one of them goes, "Oh my God, what is that?" And they cut to a shot of the one truck zooming in to cut him off. But, like, in the vehicle's in motion.
Right.
But when the truck drives in front,
yes.
it stopped.
yes.
I'm like, what?
It was
Then the
not
other one
edited well.
zooms in next to it, and they're like, you can't back up?
Yeah, apparently limos don't have a reverse gear.
Yeah, they're trapped.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, okay, so you're in a car. You know what a car is? We got that clear?
I've got one.
All right, so something zooms in front of the car.
Sure.
Okay.
I follow you.
All right. Do you really have to park something next to the car?
Well,
You're concerned the car may go sideways? You don't have anything behind the
your
car.
point.
You know what I mean?
Now I see your point.
They weren't
yes.
like blocked in so they couldn't get out. They got out.
Well, Savage is in pretty good shape. He probably could move it.
The issue is like the car's not going to go sideways.
Sure.
It's going to go front or it's going to go back. Instead, this fucking Nash blocks it off in the front and blocks it off on the side.
and leaves the back open, which no one seemed to realize. So Nash jumps out and he undoes a hose from the septic tank and he pours the contents through in the limo and there's all kinds of screaming and hollering and it's done. And then Nash says, "Let's get out of here." And he and his buddies jump in the septic truck and take off.
Well, let's not
What a hero.
let's not gloss over the fact that he's on top of the car and the sewage is being poured in through the sunroof.
Sure.
Okay? Well, when the deed is done, now Kevin Nash needs to get off the car.
This is a feat.
It's covered in sewage. He's 7 feet tall. He's had like
knees.
12 knee surgeries. This was the scariest thing I've ever seen. He did manage to pull it off, but I was sure that he was going to kill himself.
This is where I wrote, this is an S show.
I wrote, I can't believe this company died.
They get out of the car. They're covered in sewage. It goes on way too long. It
Dry
sucked.
heave.
I did love there was one awesome thing. They're
I can't
covered
believe
in
you're saying this.
They're covered in it's so bad it's so stupid. But they're covered in sewage. They're all screaming. Savage acting like he's gonna vomit. And Medusa turns to Miss Madness and just says, "Your sash." That was funny.
Glad you picked
And
that
I don't even think it was supposed to be.
Oh, God. Sting and Ric Steiner in a
Ah,
cage match.
fucking who cares? Just
They didn't. I'll tell you that much.
They had a shitty match.
This was Sting and Ric Steiner giving 0%.
Gee, I wonder why. Take Abbott, who is feuding with Rick Steiner on Thursday, is a special guest referee. He helps Rick Steiner win, and they're in cahoots.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Fuck you, WCW. You suck. I'm sick of this show.
Except you're
This
wrong.
show's terrible.
You're wrong about one thing.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Rick didn't win. There was no finish.
Oh!
There was no finish.
Yeah, this show can die. Oh, it did.
It did. Well, let's do this finishers report.
Fuck.
There's a couple of pins I'm missing here. I missed the Savage pin. I think I missed Buff too. But regardless, the
Use
finishes
that.
The finishes on this show were DQ in a hardcore match, clean pin, DQ in a tag match, but at least it's going somewhere. Pin after interference, pin after hitting dude with a crowbar, and a non-finish in the shoot cage match main event.
Yeah. Hitting a guy with a crowbar. Hitting a crowbar with a crowbar.
Uh-huh.
What a bad main event. But the show was okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The main event just left me in such a pissed off mood. It was so bad.